What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Art of War tier list. It's a tier list on a Tuesday. So we are here to rank every single faction in the game of Warhammer 40k. If you wonder how your army is doing in the Arks of Omen, we're about to tell you.
Yeah.
You ready, Jack?
I'm super ready. I don't think we've done like a retrospective on a meta tier list. And I think it's very interesting because no matter what you think going into a season, you definitely got some things wrong.
Absolutely. We could go back and look at the tier list that was put out right at the beginning of Arks of Omen, and you know what? I think we really got some things right.
We did.
And I think we missed some things.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And you know what? We're here to fix that. So thank you so much, everyone who is tuned in live. And thank you to everyone who's watching after the fact. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to the channel. Clicking those buttons really helps us grow as a channel. It's what lets us make all of this awesome content. So hopefully it's something that you all really, really enjoy, because we enjoy making it for you. And of course, if you want even more Art of War content, make sure you check out the description of this video, where you can find a link to the Art of War War Room. That's where a bunch of top level players like myself, Jack Harpster, Nick Nanavati, Richard Siegler, many, many more are there to teach you how to get better at the game that you love. And by clicking on that link, you can even get a free 3-day trial to try out the War Room yourself. Now is the best time to join.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're ready. We're here. We're excited. Do we want to? I mean, I think they're listed in alphabetical order because that's just kind of how
except some
the
of
file
them
works.
Well, yeah, like Crons instead of Necrons, Clowns instead of Harlequins. You can tell what John actually named these.
That's true. Yeah, you can tell that I fit Harlequins and Necrons starting with a C in between Chaos Knights and CSM. That's pretty funny. Fair enough. Yeah, you can tell what I named these. All right, and hopefully these faction icons work for everyone. You know what? I went straight to the source. So let us know if you like this. You want to start with the Golden Boys?
I would love to start with the Golden Boys.
I know this is one of your favorite factions.
I've been playing a lot of Custodes lately. They are quite good.
Adeptus Custodes consistently are a little bit better than they look.
Yeah, their units look really not great, but their rules, man, their rules. The rules they can put on those units, they're very good. They got some good rules. There's also a lot of different ways to play Custodes, which is weird considering they have like 10 units.
Yeah.
But those 10 units, you can do a lot of things with them. You can make a lot of lists that go in a lot of different directions. You can make heavy shooting. You can make a melee control build. You can go very fast and shoot. You can go slow and shoot. You can go a bully dreadnought list. Like, there's a whole lot of different ways you can take it.
You had me at bully dreadnoughts.
Oh, I know. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Custodes are in a really good spot. I mean, they've got a pretty good win rate. They're just kind of floating above 50%, but nothing like insane. You know, they're never hitting 60. They're putting up pretty good event results. Sneaking in a couple event wins. Got plenty of podiums.
I took them 5-0 at the GT that you took the Slanesh to.
Indeed.
That was a good time.
I feel like Custodes are just a very solidly above average army.
Yes. I think they're like a poster child of A tier right now.
Yeah, they are literally just poster A tier.
They have a really bad guard matchup.
You know,
I will say that.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Just the Casterkin are do too much damage in that matchup.
I feel like. I mean, I've seen Custodes beat Guard a couple of times, enough that I'm convinced it's possible, even though it's never going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Any army can technically beat any other army.
Yeah.
But I think it's not a great matchup. But even so, I would still rate Custodes as having quite a bit of power and quite a bit of flexibility.
Yeah, you know, they are elite, so they're always prone to the the normal elite problems, which is that if you fail a couple too many saves in a given turn, or if you happen to get hit by something with really high damage, you may not be able to recover because you don't have enough resources. So they have normal elite army problems.
They do.
But they're still better into that than the other elite armies in my mind.
Yeah. If someone hands you a bunch of damage 3 and you just fail some 4-ups, life gets really rough.
Yeah.
It just can, because you lose a unit or two and then all of a sudden you don't have like replacement units. You don't have a ton of units that can just screen, although recently I've been playing with probably one of the best screening units in the game, the Witch Seekers. So I think they're very strong. I think Custodes are very strong. Witch Seekers plus the infantry is incredible.
Yeah.
The Dreadnoughts is a great build, especially for teams. I think it's one of the best teams builds. You can make a very fast shooting army. Like, I love Custodes A tier. Just slap them up there. They're very good.
Yeah. So a quick question before we dive into the next army. Do you want to try to put like a poster child of each tier? in, just to kind of give a little more context, or do you want to just kind of go down the line?
I think we can say when an army is that poster child, because I'm not really sure which one I'd pick for B tier. Actually, I think I have an idea.
Yeah?
I think I have an idea for poster child for B tier. What about you?
I mean, I'm sure I could come up with one really fast if I needed to. But I think I think we could come up with a poster child of each tier pretty quickly if we needed to.
Yeah, I think poster child for B, for me personally, is Drukhari.
Drukhari, that is a good choice. That was one of the ones I was looking at.
Yeah. And for S tier, it's Dark Angels, but we'll get to that.
Whatever.
All right, let's cover Admech.
Okay, so Admech obviously are still broken. However, other than the fact of that, they are suffering a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that they continue to be an army that's a little bit better than the numbers would tell you.
Yes.
But I don't think that makes them like good.
They're also an army that's just more work than it's worth.
Yeah.
Like, it's good, it's better than the win rate, but is it worth your time to play an army that's basically Excel spreadsheet, but on the table?
Yeah, the amount of like stacking buffs that you need in order to make everything work, and then if you ever mismanage your buffs, or if your opponent has a mechanic to hit the unit that isn't receiving the buffs,
yeah, you're in
like
trouble.
Suddenly you're like, because they're overpriced for their profile, but then their buffs make their units insane, so you can't have them be too cheap.
Yeah,
And then you find the units without the buffs, and those things underperform wildly, and suddenly the army falls apart.
Or occasionally your opponent has like AP3 Blast or something, or your opponent has...
Or like weird mortal wound output.
Or weird mortal wound output, or something, and like all of a sudden your 20-man bricks, they ignore AP1 and 2 and are transhuman, just fall apart, and you're like, oh. You know, that are like +2 to their saves and ignore AP1 and 2. Yeah, all of a sudden those units fall apart. So I will say they're generically pretty strong, but then occasionally have like really bad matchups.
Yeah.
And also are insanely fiddly. Like the amount of times it's like, well, this buff goes 24 inches from this, but this... There's 3 different data tethers, John. There's 3 different data tethers.
Look,
They all change how command phase stuff works in different ways. And every unit has one, and it's a different one for each unit.
You don't have to sell me on Admech being too complicated. Yeah, I do think that one of the reasons that they're kept down competitively is that they are too complicated and you jump through too many hoops to get the output that you could just get with a different book. But I don't think that necessarily affects their top tier competitive potential. It just, I think, lowers their win rate artificially. Because it's not worth it for a lot of individual players to try and learn and master Admech right now, because it's not as rewarding as the hoops you have to jump through to indicate.
The barrier to entry is also very real.
Also very real.
Because, like, to start up Admech, it's not like you can just pick the army up and play some units. It's like you got to go through, you know, a 3-week course.
Yeah, plus all of the Admech players, they accidentally sold their armies when the Tyranid Codex came out, and now you have to buy it again. Like, that's very complicated.
It's very... They're also very expensive.
They are. They really
so, like,
are.
all of that conspires to keep their win rate lower than it should be in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like, if this were a video game, right, and it... And the game took care of all the back end stuff for you, so you didn't have to worry about where all your buffs went, how they went, and all that. And also, every model costs the same to pick up.
Yeah.
Admech would have a much higher win rate. I think like a solid +5% at least.
Yeah, they'd be.
Where are they at now?
I mean, I could go find it. If I were to guess, I would say that Admech is in the 40-ish.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around there, and I think it should be over 50. Like,
I don't think it should. I think it should be very close to 50 though. I think it should be like, so? I honestly, I feel like if you asked me to predict their win rate based on what I've seen from Admech in Arks of Omen, I would guess 47, 48.
Okay. I will say this is a perfect segue while you look it up for me to talk about why I don't care about win rates.
Oh, thank you for asking me to look it up. Fantastic.
Yeah, no problem. I don't care about win rates because win rate takes into account all levels of play. And armies perform drastically different at different levels of play.
Would you like me to get your win rate of tournament veterans versus tournament veterans?
I mean, even inside tournament veterans, things like how veteran are these tournament veterans?
I don't know. It's up to
because
the
generally tournament veterans means they played like 1 GT. And I will say that as you get better and better and better, certain armies perform better, certain armies perform worse. Like poster child for that is Death Guard.
Yeah, that's true.
At mid-level, low-level, they have like a solid 50%. I see them do well all the time there. But as soon as they get hit skilled players, they die. They just fall off. Fall off a cliff.
Keep happening.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, in that case, it won't bother telling you the win rate that I just went.
Oh, what is it?
Admech are at a 45% win rate right now.
Okay. Yeah, and I think they should be around a 50%. So I think plus 5% is definitely correct.
I still think that they're in my mind they're going to end up as the very like closer to the bottom of B tier, maybe top of C tier.
No, I agree with B tier. They have a lot of power still, man. They still have a lot.
They have Laz Chickens and Ranger/Vanguard.
Yeah,
that's it.
Those units are very strong.
Those units are very strong, but sometimes those units aren't enough, and then it's like, oops, no longer playing the game.
Yeah, I mean I agree with that, but I don't think that edges them down into like C tier. C tier is like the not great armies. I think Admech is totally a fine army.
Okay. Well, let's put them in B tier. I'm okay with that. We can kind of order it out as we see how things fall.
Yeah. I will say, with all of the barriers to entry and all of the, is this army actually worth maining and etc., they still have a 45, which is impressive, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, they're not a bad army. I just think that like if we are ranking them 1 to 30, I don't think they'd make the top 15. I don't know how many. I think
they land somewhere around the center of the pack.
Yeah.
For me personally.
I mean, how many codexes are there? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 30, 32.
32.
Okay.
I think they land around the center of the pack.
They're going to be around the center, yeah. All right. So let's leave them here.
All right. Blood Angels.
Bengali boys.
Yep. I've always been a proponent of Blood Angels on tier lists.
You often hype them up. Someone must have hyped Blood Angels.
I'm just here to say I was right in the past. It's fine. Mm-hmm. People can admit when I'm right. But I don't think they're very good right now.
Yeah. I honestly think that they're very close to Admech in power level.
Yeah, I honestly would put them a little lower just because on balance, like mediocre melee with... I mean,
they're not mediocre melee. Hold on.
No. They're a mediocre melee army. They hit insanely hard. That's not the question. I'm not saying they don't hit hard. But they are very fragile. And they also don't have a lot of mechanics to close the gap. So when you're in a fight with... And they got cheaper, but they are still an expensive army. So when you play them, your units will vanish way faster than they really should. Yeah. And your opponent's units will vanish way faster than they should. Yeah. But they have screens, you don't.
They definitely don't take full advantage of the Space Marine changes, like some other chapters do.
Yeah, honestly, they got nerfed by the Space Marine changes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they lost their secondary. They lost...
that was a big one.
Oh, I forget. It's the Death
Company one?
Death Company one. Yep. It's the one I used at LVO.
But you got shock tactics, at least.
They had shock tactics.
Yeah.
Shock tactics...
But it's 4 points now.
It was 4 points back then, too.
I know.
Okay. Losing the Death Company secondary was a whole tier in and of itself, in my opinion, because now your scoring plan is bad rather than good.
Yep.
And then also losing Armor of Contempt was a massive deal for that army, because even with Armor of Contempt, they still felt fragile to me. Because your units were expensive, and when they got hit, they died. Yep. Even with Armor of Contempt.
Fair enough.
Without it, they don't even really need to get hit to die. like units can swing in and just pick up a Sanguinary Guard unit, and it's rough. And then you don't have that secondary there to ensure that your points are on point. And all of the changes that Space Marines got that are really nice don't make up for it. Free Inferno pistols, you never had problems killing your opponent at close range. It's just doubling down on the thing you already did perfectly fine. Whereas you lose all of your ability to play the game. Yeah. And you lose your ability to stay alive in the fight. And so I've played Blood Angels a couple times since I played them at LVO, and they've felt like a fundamentally different army since the Space Marine changes. I would put them B tier, bottom of B tier, tops. Personally, they don't score well. They don't actually survive in the fight well. Yeah.
I think we can, I'm probably just going to kind of put codexes in their tier for a little bit, and then I think halfway through we'll start to order them a little more. Because right now, bottom of B tier, we have 2 codexes that we both think are bottom of B tier, but by definition, one of them has to be top of B tier right now. Correct. So we can reevaluate where codexes fall in that in a little bit.
I mean, I've been a big advocate of Blood Angels in the past, but that's just because I put them where I think that they belong. And right now, I think where they belong is low B tier.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's unfortunate.
Let me also take this quick break to kind of acknowledge how we're ranking armies, because we usually lead off with that, but I think we forgot to say it this time. And how we are trying to rank these armies is not explicitly by their win rate or by their, like how good the army is in everyone's hands. I think how we look at these armies is how well we feel they will do if played by someone who understands the army and is trying to go win a tournament.
Yes.
So we're looking at this not as... So some armies we may think are better suited for getting a good win rate, but are not very good at winning a tournament. There's one that's, kind of hovering in my brain for that category. And then there may be others that maybe have a slightly lower win rate, but they've got some real tournament winning play.
Yes.
So that may affect how we rank armies. It's not just going to be lining these codexes up in the order of their win rate.
Yes, because that's easy to do. If you want to do that, go to sort by win rate.
Go to stat check. They're awesome.
Yeah, stat check's great, and they do a slightly adjacent thing to what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, I thought Blood Angels were really good last season. I took them to LVO, and I managed to win LVO with them. I thought they were great.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah, no. I actually did. That's a little known fact.
Little man's been hyping up the Blood Angels.
I've been hyping up the Blood Angels, but they just, unfortunately, the changes really just hit them in both kneecaps. They needed that. They needed that durability, and they needed Fury of the Lost really badly. And playing with Fury of the Lost, when I hadn't been playing with it before, was a game changer for me. And without Fury of the Lost, your scoring plan is bad, your survivability is bad, your initiation is bad. Like, it's just hard to play the army now without just dying.
Fair enough. All right, so moving on, we have another Spaceman chapter.
We do.
Black Templars, which I always struggle to rate Black Templars. I think that because they're just like a slightly more durable Space Marine army, but they're not a durable Space Marine army.
Well, no Space Marine army, I think, is durable. Sorry, no, there's one.
Yeah.
There's one.
I was going to say, I wouldn't say none.
No, there is one. There's one.
Perfect.
There's one.
In that case, we can
There's a big
fully
one.
agree.
No Space Marine army that doesn't have weird, stupid, broken mechanics is durable.
Yeah, Deathwing are a little bit different.
Yeah,
but,
Deathwing are built very different.
But Black Templars are durable, but not insanely so. And they don't shoot any harder than normal Space Marines. They punch slightly harder than normal Space Marines, but they also aren't particularly better at getting into combat. So I always struggle to rank Black Templars. My take on it is that I think that Black Templars are a little bit worse than Blood Angels. I don't know if that means that they're going to stay in B tier as well, or if they're going to fall into C. But
I think they're better than Blood Angels.
Really?
Yeah. So the reason I think that is because you can take the cheap infantry swarm, because those just got fundamentally cheaper, and their whole idea is bodies on the board. You don't actually care about Armor of Contempt because you're relying on that invuln, and you couldn't take cover, so you couldn't save stack in the same way.
Yeah.
So I think Black Templar, that actually got better with Arks of Omen, because you just got more dudes on the board with a 5-up invuln and then feel no pain.
Yeah, I guess I
just
haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't put it on the board because it's a swarm army that just gets shot over and over again. But it is very good at just locking down objectives and just having 100+ Space Marine bodies on board. And then there's also the mech build.
Yeah, the mech build is definitely its own thing. The infantry build though, I guess I just I feel like it's just going to. Oops, reconnection successful. That's nice.
Just pull that up. Yep. Okay, sweet.
Yep, we're back to green. I don't know. I guess I've never seen a Black Templars build where I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the mech build is kind of oppressive, but it's also oppressive in not a great way, which is if it gets shot back first, it probably doesn't do well.
Yeah.
But if it shoots you first, you're probably not doing well. I think the mech build is very strong, just most people don't. Yeah. I can't afford the checks notes $110 per 100-point model that army has.
Even then, I feel like that's like building a gatekeeper. I feel like that kind of list wouldn't be very good at winning tournaments.
No, it wouldn't be very good at winning tournaments, I think, but it would be very good at going 4-1.
Yeah,
which is its own special weird strength. I personally put Black Templars top of B.
Yeah, I'm we can put them ahead of Blood Angels. I definitely think that they're they're probably like they're one of the decent Space Marine chapters, but they're definitely not one of the top Space Marine chapters.
Yeah. I mean, I think Blood Angels are cooler and have a more fun play style for myself.
I feel like Blood Angels are a little more skill expressive still.
They are.
And that to me makes them an army that's more likely to go win a tournament than Black Templars are.
Yeah, but I don't think Blood Angels are better than Black Templars. I think Blood Angels should lose to Black Templars most of the time.
Yeah, I think,
I mean, one-on-one matchup.
Yeah, I could freely acknowledge Black Templars having being a more reliable way to go 3-2 in a tournament. But I feel like if you were to take Blood Angels to a tournament, and if you were to take Black Templars to a tournament, I feel like you would be more likely to get the win with Blood Angels than Black Templars.
I mean, I just personally know Blood Angels better.
Even if you got the reps, that's you just being the theoretical top player who's experienced with both armies.
Fair enough. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think, top skill expression brings Blood Angels up to where they are, not past where I think we put them. But
fair enough. Well,
let's before we head on to Chaos Demons.
Yep. Let's talk about this chat from Bonsai Kitty Gaming. Bonsai Kitty Gaming has been a member for 5 months. Thank you so much for being a member of the Worm. Shout out for all the DDW players. I'm going to assume that that's Deathwatch. Yeah. You guys rock and look forward to the new content in the Worm. Have a great day and keep up the great work. Bonsai, thank you so much for your support. I'm assuming that's Deathwatch, not Deathwing. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we really, really appreciate it. We're going to have so much content coming up in the Worm with all of the exciting new 10th edition stuff that GW keeps dropping. So we're just going to be making a lot more videos. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel and the Worm.
Yep.
All right. Chaos Demons.
Chaos Demons. Well, they are very good.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to elaborate on that. They're quite good.
Mm-hmm. I think Demons, are like even better than their win rate, and their win rate's good.
Yeah, they are quite a good army. They also have quite a few different archetypes as well. What's their win rate's 56%?
Win rate is 56%, which is very close to the top. I honestly think that they're even better than that.
I think they are as well. They're a hard army to play.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, they can also just fall back on hey, guess what? I am too efficient for my stats.
Yeah, I feel like it's really easy to get Chaos Demons to 90% effectiveness.
Yes.
And if you're a skilled player who can take them that extra 10%, then they're just crazy. Chaos Demons. I had a little dalliance with Chaos Demons when I played Pure Slanesh at a local GT. It was my first time playing Chaos Demons in 3 editions, and they're crazy.
They were cracked.
Yeah. I was just
30-point fiends. What are we doing? What is happening here? 30-point fiends.
Yeah, Chaos Demons I think are just insane.
Yeah, I think they're nuts.
They're actually, honest to God, in my mind, Chaos Demons are the line
between A and S.
They're the line between A and S. I think I could just put Chaos Demons at the very top of A tier right now, and they wouldn't move a line.
Yeah,
I could put them at the bottom of S tier, and they wouldn't move at all.
I don't actually want to put them in either A or S.
I don't. I actually do kind of want to just put a Chaos Demons tier in between. We theoretically can add tiers to this, I think.
Can we do that now, or do we have to?
Oops, what have I done?
You are making B tier better than A tier.
That's not what I should do. There we go. How do I insert a tier?
I don't know. I think you have to restart.
All right, well, I'm not restarting.
Yeah. So Chaos Demons, I also played them to Cherokee as pure Tzeentch. Mm-hmm. So you play them as pure Slanesh. I play them as pure Tzeentch.
Yeah, so literally not a shared data sheet or rule in between our books.
Correct. They were both nuts.
Yeah.
Pure Tzeentch just ragdolled some people. It was a nuts army. Mm-hmm. Pure Slanesh is a nuts army. You mix the two together.
Still good.
It's still very, very good.
Yeah, maybe
you take
throw
a bunch.
Phase Thirster.
You take a bunch of monsters. It's incredible. Skull Cannons are insanely well priced for their cost. 90 points for their stat line. Jeez.
Oh, there's an army in the game that would not take Skull Cannons on.
Yeah, for sure. Fiends too.
Fiends.
Pink Horrors make your opponent want to rip their hair out. Straight up.
Yep. There's just all shenanigans all the time.
All shenanigans all the time. They also have great secondaries. They have Warp Ritual on lock. They have Reality Rebels is a nuts secondary. Mm-hmm. I think I played 6 games with them at Cherokee, and I think I scored the solid 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was good.
Yeah, Slanesh Demons just scored insanely well. It was just like, oops, I accidentally scored 45 on primary without really thinking about it every single game. Oops, I got a 15 on Reality Rebels. All right, so I'm starting at 60. Now I'll just think about 2 secondaries, and one of them is banners.
Yep, they have objective secured just coming out of their ears. Like, they can deep strike on you very effectively, so you always have to be worried for the first couple turns. They're just a really, really, really good army. Like, I don't know what to say. Their stat lines are basically across the board too efficient.
Yeah, it just feels that way where, the army looked a little bit underwhelming when we got the books. But then it's like, oh, once you put it on the table, also after you make some things cheaper. Again, insane to me that Demons got a buff in Arks of Omen. I know Flamers deserve the nerf and they wanted to give them something, but like, man, every time we have a top tier army get one thing nerfed and 3 things buffed and remain a top tier army, it's like, how did this happen?
Yeah, at Cherokee, against Votann, I deployed on the line. I just deployed on the line in the open against Votann, went second, totally fine. I ran him over by like turn 2.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Great.
Maybe turn 3. But it's nuts. You have this grab bag of insane units to pull from. And I don't understand why, but basically across the board. You could make a 4,000 point list made up only of like A+ tier units. And that's insane.
Oh, yeah, easily. You could make so many different, there's so many different builds in Chaos Demons. I think Pure Tzeentch and Pure Slaanesh all have a really good competitive play.
Yeah.
I think that you can just soup them together, get another really good list. I think you can do a completely different style of Pure Tzeentch list than the one you're talking about. Like, we had, at the same time that your Pure Tzeentch Demons, you were doing really well with a ton of pink horrors, we had a Pure Tzeentch Demon list with Be'lakor and 0 horrors, winning a major.
Yeah. No, the Be'lakor Mono Tzeentch list is
also
the combination between Be'lakor and Flamers, which Flamers got nerfed really hard.
And yet.
And that they're still good. They're not an auto-include, unless you're playing Tzeentch, in which case they are an auto-include.
Yeah.
But they are really strong. Like, Be'lakor makes them nuts.
I'm honestly talking myself into Demons and S tier.
No, this is S tier.
Yeah. I don't think,
there's one other army that shares the spot with them, and it's definitely better than Demons.
Yeah, there's going to be more things in S tier. I think we have a much heavier S tier than we normally do.
And this also has a pretty not great matchup into the other S tier army.
That's why it's not going to be the top of it.
Yes. But they just have, I'm pretty sure you can make like a 4,000 to 5,000 point army made up only of units that are too good for their stat line.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah. The Phase Cap Thirster, Fate Weaver / the Lord of Change, depending on which one you want to use.
Sure.
The Keepers of Secrets and Shalaxi are also very good.
Yeah, surprisingly good.
Be'lakor in a list built around him is quite good. It's janky, but it's really good. Mono Tzeentch, composed entirely of pink horrors, flamers, exalted flamers. Oh my god. The Burning Chariots, also really, really good. Then you go over to Khorne.
Now let's go to the next god.
Yeah, you go to Khorne and
it's got skull cannons in there.
Skull cannons are ludicrous.
Flesh hounds are also very cheap.
Flesh hounds are very good and don't make it into lists because other units are just insanely undercosted.
Yeah, fiends exist. You go to and bloodletters are also a pretty good deep strike in and hit your charge 3d6 and get on objectives. Then Slaanesh, you have fiends are like one of the most undercosted units in the entire game. Yep, absolutely.
And Seekers are really good. Demonettes are really good. The Chariots are very hard to kill for their insanely low points cost. And then you go over to Nurgle, and, we don't talk about Nurgle. Plague Bearers are alright, I guess. Nurglings are fine. But
this is the next hit single by Manuel and Miranda. We don't talk about Nurgle.
We don't talk about Nurgle.
No. Yeah, that's there. But we still see pure Nurgle. Even pure Nurgle, which we're literally making memes about, still is, doing things. There's a pure Nurgle list in the top 16 of Adepticon. You can take, statistically the worst sub-faction of this awesome book and just go drop 4-0 on people. It's oh, cool.
You know what the Demon's army-wide rule is? It's not anything it says there. It's -1 to hit and a 4-up invuln army-wide.
Yeah, it seriously feels that way.
Yeah. That's what their special rule is, and boy, is it strong.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's, that's Chaos... That's Chaos Demons. They're pretty good. Let's talk about an army that's near and dear to my heart.
Chaos Knights.
Chaos Knights. Good golly, Miss Molly, I love this army. Chaos Knights have some really polarizing matchups. I think that they are, again, an army that is, in my mind, better than their win rate. Their win rate is 47, for those who care about it.
That is not correct. I mean, it is correct. But
Yeah,
it's
it
not,
is.
It's not.
It's not indicative.
It's not indicative.
I'm not going to try to tell you it is. I think that Chaos Knights do run afoul of having multiple very bad potential matchups.
Yeah, they're a feast or famine army.
Absolutely.
You're either ragdolling someone in the matchup because you're just a misery to deal with. Mm-hmm. Like the dread checks and the mortals and the 5 miles obsec. Like if you can't, Harlequins, for example. If you fall afoul of Chaos Knight special rules, you are going to have the worst time. But if you happen to match up well into Chaos Knights,
You're good.
you're good.
Yeah, that's it.
Except sometimes you might not be.
Sometimes you might not be. But yeah, Chaos Knights are... So the way that I like to describe Chaos Knights, because again, this is one of my favorite books of 9th edition.
Yeah, they're very cool.
Especially because they've just been like floating in that healthy win rate the whole time, which makes me happy. Because like I love the Tyranid Codex, but it also has deserved several nerfs, and the Chaos Knight book is just awesome. So I always describe Chaos Knights as an army that is like a stat check army that loses the stat check to other stat check armies, but beats the control armies that try to go out for stat check armies. Because like some armies are just like, I'm too many stats, and then Nick is going to be like, don't care, I'm playing Eldar in the corners and I win.
Yeah, Chaos Knights will step on his throat.
Chaos Knights will step on your throat if you try to do that to them. But then of the stat check armies, Chaos Knights is probably the worst into the other stat checks.
What kind of ones are you thinking of? Because I think they do
Guard,
really well into Demons.
Iron Hands.
You mean damage output stat checks?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do not want to... Generally, although I've played Tau in 2 nights, it is a squirrely matchup if things go bad early for the Tau.
But generally, Knights don't like playing against Tau.
No, they generally don't like playing against heavy shooting armies, of which there are quite a few in the meta right now.
Yep. So, in my mind, that makes Chaos Knights a very good list for getting a good showing, and a very good army for getting a good showing. And I think they're a fantastic teams army for those same reasons.
They are.
But I think that they are very limited in their ability to win a large event, because it relies way too much on matchups.
Yeah, you're going to run into an Iron Hands player and be like...
Oh. Or a guard player, and they're like, oh, I can't reroll. Anyways, +1 to hit and wound.
Against Chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, like, he goes to sleep immediately.
So someone asking how you're not just stomping over Chaos Knights with Tau.
It's harder than it looks.
It's harder than it looks. So here's the thing, right? Theoretically, you should.
Yes.
But Tau are expensive as an army because they've been nerfed several times. And I've
Justified
played
so.
it. I've played Tau in 2 nights and Chaos Knights a couple of times. If your turn 1 or 2 doesn't perform up to where you want it to, you can get run over.
Yep.
I've had it happen. I had it happen at WTC. I played Tau into Imperial Knights. He went first. I shot him with everything, didn't kill a model. And then I'm like, oh, that's bad. And then he just all-in'd me immediately. And I was like, oh shoot.
Oh, darn. Golly gee, Batman. Yeah, there's always play for Chaos Knights into these factions. As a matter of fact, if you want to check out one of those games, The Worm, you can see my Chaos Knights into Richard Siegler's Tau. And I played as hard as I could in that one, and I got some decent results. So I think Chaos Knights are going to end up in A tier, because I think that they're, even though their win rate's a little below 50, I think that they're better than their win rate. But I think that they're going to be the lower end of A tier because they just do not have the ability to punch up into the top 3 or 4 armies in my mind.
Yeah, I could see them falling into top end of B tier, but I think they still have the raw power.
I could see that as well, but I wasn't going to lowball them early. I was going to kind of wait to see how the tier list plays out. We might end up adjusting them as we go, but for now, I think behind Custodes and A tier is about where they belong.
Yeah.
I love this army. Again, it's one of my favorite codexes of 9th edition, possibly but
I mean, you took it to the
I took it to Sumas RTT for a reason.
Yeah, and you ended up winning the RTT.
I did, because they're amazing, but I also did not play against Guard or Iron Hands. Or Leagues of Votann.
Or Leagues of Votann.
Or Dark Angels.
Or Dark Angels.
Yep.
Yeah, no. It is a strong army that is let down by bad matchups.
Yep, it just has a couple of matchups that I specifically don't put on stream.
Yes.
And I don't want to pretend that it's all sunshine and roses when I'm like, yeah, well, if I had gone second against Guard, I would have lost.
Yeah, you would have. You would
Would've
sure
lost.
would have. Sometimes.
Yeah, I have nothing to screen with other than the things they want to kill. So that's bad.
That's bad. It's not good.
All right.
Harlequins.
Harlequins.
This is going to be my Chaos Knights, where I'm like, wow, these guys are better than their win rate.
Yeah.
Harlequins got nerfed pretty substantially.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people in this house here that will claim that it was a net buff or a net like neutral or something because they got.
No, absolutely will not claim that. I will say that they're still too good and need another nerf, though. Firmly believe it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think Harlequins are actually at a very good power level right now for them. They're janky and weird, but they do not stand up to heavy fire for more than a turn. Generally.
It's so situational. It's just like some kinds of high damage output armies are like, why can't I kill this one elf? And some high damage output armies are like, oh yeah, 7 boats in the contents in a turn.
Yeah.
It's so unconventional because look, the range debuff, the minuses to hit, the no rerolls. Some armies just look at that and say, that wasn't really a reroll army anyways.
I mean, I've played it into heavy gun armies. I've played Harlequins into heavy gun armies, and it's been fine.
Yeah.
Like, you have the speed to make it so that you don't just put your army on a platter in front of your opponent and say, shoot me, because that will end poorly. Against almost any army that is taking relevant guns, you're going to have a sad time if you just put your army in the center of the board and go, shoot me, I dare you. What you have to do is you have to get the first hit. And because you are so fast, you can.
And so squirrely.
You're so fast and so squirrely that you can get the first hit. They hit back, but you're already all over them. Like, Space Marines do not want any part of Harlequins. Harlequins will run over Space Marines unless they're named Dark Angels. 10 times out of 10.
I think Iron Hands can play into Harlequins.
10 times out of 10, more often than the win rates would suggest.
Yes.
I think it's actually a bad matchup for Iron Hands.
I would want to play that. I think Iron Hands are really good.
Yeah, Iron Hands are really good.
Yeah.
I think the way it matches up is that Harlequins get the first, second, and third hits.
But the Desolators.
Sure, Desolators do be wounded on 5s into boats and do be hitting on 5s.
3s with the big gun.
3 isn't the big gun. But yes, I think Harlequins are very fast, very squirrely, and they can be very aggressive because you get the first hit, you get to tie up your opponent's shooting.
For sure.
The standard play is you swarm your opponent and tie up their shooting with something. And then traditionally, often the Foot in the Future guy goes yard and gets in and just tags whatever it is that, is going to kill multiple boats in one turn.
Yep.
And then your opponent hits back, but you've tied them up so they don't get to really do anything. Then you get the full power of Harlequins on top of them. And generally, heavy shooting armies don't survive that. Yep. Heavy durability armies don't kill enough. There's a couple armies that Harlequins have ruinously bad matchups into. I could see beating Dark Angels because they're very slow and you get to at least do your thing to them over and over again. But I think that one's not great. But I can see beating Dark Angels. I don't see beating them an equal skilled player more than 50% of the time, but I can see beating
the game is possible, yeah.
Chaos Knights, on the other hand, they're bad. It's bad for you. It's really bad for you. I don't really see beating that.
Well-constructed Chaos Knight list just kind of has all the tools. Just the way that all of it kind of breaks down.
But other than that, I honestly think Harlequins are quite solid.
Yeah.
I think they're right around the power level they should be at. So I don't know if that puts them... you know what? You put Chaos Knights bottom of A, I'm going to put them bottom of A.
Yeah, I think Harlequins are bottom of A as well. I am going to put them just below for the moment, because I do think that... Well, again, though, it's a question. I think Chaos Knights are better at getting a good podium. I think Harlequins might be a little more likely to sneak into first.
Yeah, I would say that for sure, because Harlequins don't have a bad matchup into all those heavy shooting armies the way that Chaos Knights do.
Yeah, they're the kind of the bad matchups that each army have. I think Chaos Knight bad matchups are a little more common
They're more common, and they're less easy to play around.
And they're also the ones that are also going for the top.
Yes. Yeah. And Harlequins can play around their bad matchups. Chaos Knights can't.
I can, good sir.
You need good, please.
You need good terrain and free strategic reserves.
Yeah, it's not the same as Harlequins can play around their bad matchups.
Yeah.
Also, I will say a lot of the weird janky, like try and be janky matchups that the Chaos Knights ruin, Harlequins also ruin.
Yeah, that's fair. Real quick before we move on, we do have a quick chat from Jan Hefe. I do not know how to pronounce the different J's in this.
Jan Hefe.
Jan Hefe. Guys, don't forget to put Imperial Fists to S tier. S for sorry to be you faction. That's not true. S is actually for screenshot this now. You've got 5 seconds. All right.
And now we're done.
And now we're done. We'll get them back at some point.
Yeah.
Probably right in that same spot. We'll see when we get there. All right. Necrons?
Necrons.
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 Uh,
They're aight.
Yeah, they're still, like, not bad. They definitely took enough of a hit from where they were. And then I think also because the game has continued to evolve into high damage. Like, Necrons, like, 6 months ago were such a, ooh, if you can't table me in 3 turns, I have 100 and you're probably just not getting there in time.
Yeah.
And I think the combination of, so they've got some nerfs, which weren't honestly that impactful. One secondary got a pretty noticeable nerf.
Purge the Vermin, yeah.
And then their points didn't change significantly.
Purge the Vermin got about 3 points knocked off it, which is substantial.
Yeah. I apologize. I mean the army points. Like units costs didn't change much, right?
Not really, no.
Yeah, I didn't think it changed much. And then obviously the sub-faction traits, you can no longer be pre-game move and OPSEC.
Yeah, which is
pretty big.
Big issue, because the army just no longer moves pre-game moves 6 inches, because you still need to be army-wide OPSEC.
Yep.
So you just don't pre-game move 6 inches, and that is a massive nerf.
Yeah. I feel like Necrons fell further than the weight of their nerfs because the meta swung harder into armies that were willing to table them in 3 turns.
Yeah, they're also too thick to hide on a lot of terrain.
And there's more people that are going fast and trying to table you by the end of turn 3.
Yep, and they also just don't score as well. Purge the Vermin got about 3 points knocked off. Mm-hmm. Ancient Machineries is the same. And
Treasures got a little bit worse, but is still potentially maxable.
Treasures is still like, you get a 15 instead of a 20, you know?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. You get a 15, 7, 18. It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Because they didn't change the holding 2 gets you 3, which is what you did. You just did that every turn. You got a 15.
Yeah. So Necrons, like as far as where to put them, I think that Necrons are probably going to be close to B tier for me. It feels like another army that's like decent for getting its wins, but hard to get event wins with.
Yeah, I think they're low. I think they're low B tier.
Yeah,
personally.
So we now have 4 factions that are in low B tier.
Yeah.
At some point, one of these is going to end up in the middle.
Yeah,
but we can sort that out once we get a little deeper into it.
Yeah. Once we have most of the armies in there, we'll be able to relevantly rank them against each other. Right now, it's hard to say.
100%. Yeah, I agree that they're probably somewhere in B tier. I don't think that they're going to fall into C. I just don't see them making A though ever. So somewhere in B tier feels very reasonable for them. They
still have some builds.
Their changes were like small in like the amount of what happened, but they were impactful across the board. And then the meta changed and they just feel like they sunk.
Yeah, they just don't have the same ludicrous scoring that they used to. Mm-hmm. Because they don't get to, when Necrons went first, it was terrible.
Oh my god, yeah.
They got to pregame move, then score all their points, and they get like a 14 on secondaries turn 1. They were amazing at scoring every single mission alternate primary.
That's true.
And then so you would realistically have them drop like 20 points on your head turn 1. It was insane.
Yeah, I do remember those where I was like bottom of turn 2, it was like 52 to my like 20 something, and I'm just like, I know I get points in the back half, but like what is happening right now?
Yeah, and all they need to do is hold on. Every single model is OBSEC, which makes taking primary away from them worse. They're just not the same now. Now they don't have that 6-inch pregame. Their secondaries got knocked down a peg, and like all of a sudden, if you kick that scoring and that first turn pressure out from under them, it's like, oh, now they're all right.
Yep,
they're fine.
Yep, that's about how it feels. Okay, so that's people have mentioned. I think that Necrons actually do have some really good SKU builds. We haven't talked about the vault, the Tesseract vault.
Yeah, that was the double vault list. Was really good, especially at killing Deathwing Terminators. It would scoop them in like 2 to 3 turns every time.
Yep, but then sometimes you play against good old-fashioned Imperial Guard.
Well, also, but now the Deathwing builds are playing Desolator Marines, and they just pick the vaults up.
also that.
Yeah. It used to be they had no answer for them and they would just die, but now the Desolator Marines go, bye.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. All right, so we're going into CSM now.
They got the patented double nerf.
Yeah, wow. CSM, it's for me, it's the secondaries that hurts the most. I feel like CSM just needs one really good secondary.
They don't have one though.
Agreed.
Yeah.
They have two mediocre secondaries that are kind of situational, and some of them are faction locked. None of them are just like consistently good.
Yeah, I think the Creations of Bile one is good, especially for the Spider, and then the Adorn the Canvas is pretty good. Mm-hmm. But they don't make up for... First off, Bile got smacked. Mm-hmm. Bile got smacked, so you're not really taking that. And Emperor's Children, I mean, got worse.
Yeah, it's so weird because there isn't like a front runner for like what the CSM build is. Like we have the new Cogs of Vashdor, which I think is kind of cool, but definitely still a bit of like a middle stat check where it's like, ooh, can you kill all these demon engines? And like there's a couple lists that can just be like, yes. That's a problem.
Well, it's a stat checky army that doesn't have great secondaries, so it's like,
yep, still
are
has
you
that problem.
running people over with soul grinders or not soul grinders, defilers? Like you're running people over with defilers? Like you're probably not, but you can still win. It's just, I think this is the poster child
for C tier.
Yeah.
I agree. CSM need a little loving. One of those World Leader secondaries. Like, take one World Leader secondary, remove it from World Leaders, give it to CSM. They're not using all three. They're not using it all. Just give one of those to Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
And
when you compare the data sheets to Demons and then the secondaries to Demons, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate in my mind. There's so many different builds that all have, like, a little bit of potential. Like, Emperor's Children, I think, actually won a GT this past weekend. In the last 2 weeks. I know that Emperor's Children have won a GT in Europe. But then, like, Emperor's Children itself isn't really making waves. Cogs of Ashdor is interesting. I haven't seen it really do anything yet, though. Then, like, Black Legion Iron Warriors kind of get some discussion, but again, haven't done much.
They just don't have good units. Mm-hmm. That's the main problem here. Like, their units, what they do for their points cost is not enough.
Yep. And they have insane buffs.
Yeah, they have great buffs.
I don't understand how, like, Custodes and CSM both have data sheets that I look at, and I'm like, yeah, you're a little expensive for what you do. And then they both have insanely good rules to stack on them, and one of those armies is good and one isn't.
It might be that CSM has to pre-call the buffs. It might be that CSM is just way less natively durable than Adeptus Custodes.
Yeah, in the end, you can always fall back on rolling some threes.
It's also they have one good unit. Like, they don't have bad data. Like, they have one good unit. You know, they have the Black Rune Terminator unit.
True. You can't change which your good unit is mid-game.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a real problem. Yeah, like, if someone kills the good Warden squad, you can spend CP on the second Warden squad. Or you can be more MSU.
Yep. Or it's, if my opponent has AP 0, they get blanked. But if you have AP 0 into CSM, you still got plenty of things to shoot at.
Yeah.
You know, you still have plenty of things to fight. All of your data sheets will be effective into CSM, whereas that's not the case into Custodes.
Fair. Alas.
Yeah.
Alas. Poor Abaddon. We knew him well. Yep. He's still
really good.
He's still really good.
He's still really good. He's still the trait of Black Legion is you get to take Abaddon to full potential.
Yeah, he's just the Eldred of CSM.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Eldred.
Do
you like that segue? We're talking Craft Worlds Eldar next. I don't know where to put Craft World Eldar. I still think that they're quite good. Hail of Doom is still just frustrating levels of damage.
Yeah. I mean, they feel like a dying empire to me.
Yeah,
they still have all the things that made their empire great. It's just...
They're definitely sliding down, but they're still doing well.
Yeah, they're good. They're certainly good. I just don't know what they're good into. Like, if you look at it, what army on here do they actually have, like, a good matchup into? There's a couple, sure. It's, like, the worst armies. They should wreck Blood Angels. They should do...
I feel like Craft Worlds are good into most of the power armor. Probably not the extreme ones. Like, I don't think they're good into Iron Hand specifically.
No.
But I think that they're actually better into Dark Angels than an average army would be.
Probably.
Hail of Doom, to be clear.
They're above it. Yeah, Hail of Doom, people are experimenting with not Hail of Doom, and that's dope. Mm-hmm. But I think you need to take Hail of Doom just so you actually do damage. People are taking Ynnari.
And to be clear, we are ranking Ynnari in the context of Craft World Eldar. We're not doing a separate Craft World and Ynnari on the tier list. It's all one spot.
Yeah, Ynnari is, for rules purposes, just a separate Craft World. Yep. And in power level, it's also just a separate Craft World. Like, it doesn't fundamentally change things.
Ynnari
in my
wins more, but I think that it's just like a slightly better version of Craft World. But then maybe not as good as Hail of Doom.
I don't think it's as good as Hail. I think it's better than, like... Ultimate's trying to do something weird and different, but, like, it's definitely better than, like, Votann or a custom craft world that you conjured up. Like, you're going to do better with Ynnari than either of those.
Yep, for sure.
Than Votann or Yanden.
My favorite one. Yeah. I still think that Craft World is in the top end. I think that they're A tier. I honestly think that they're now very close to Harlequins in strength.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I agree that they feels like a very slowly dying empire. But, Craft World was still an insane book for a while. They're just slowly declining. There's just always one or two more things where they're not really taking that many nerfs. There's one or two more things emerging that are harder for them. Like, Desolator Marines going into a Dark Angel list makes life harder.
Oh, yeah, it does. It does. I will say the Eldar Harley synergy
is still really good.
Hail plus Twilight?
I still think that is the best build out of the combined Craft World and Harlequin books.
Yes. For sure.
Yep. Honestly, I'm surprised you haven't played that at all.
Just had a lot of different armies to put on the table.
Fair enough.
And also, Nick loves his Eldar.
There are a lot of rules in 40k, so I get it.
There are a lot.
So without really trying to differentiate yet, I think we're going to have to at some point. I think Craft World is going to be in the lower end of A tier to me.
They don't feel like they belong in B, but they don't...
Yeah, like, I just can't in good conscience look at this book next to Black Templars and be like, yep, these are both B tier armies. They're not.
Yeah.
But then I also don't think that they are quite Custodes level.
No, they're not.
So I think that we... I think that we're putting him around here.
Yes. I think they're fine, and they definitely reward player skill. Mm-hmm. But they just don't have the sauce as much as they used to. You know what I'm saying?
I do. They are lost without the sauce.
They don't got the juice.
It's that their secondary game got like just slightly weaker. And the problem is that now if they're not playing from position of strength, they're much less equipped to come out and deal with the top armies if they are slightly behind the 8-ball.
Yeah,
if Craft World is losing by 5 points, it's kind of hard to get those back.
It is. They also find themselves... They're incredible at making close games.
Oh, yeah.
You just can't get a big win.
Another good teams army.
They're a fantastic teams army.
We're going to have to, like, redo this tier list, like, just for teams at some point.
Yeah, because armies do change quite a lot.
Yep.
Custodes move up to, well, honestly, probably just top of A. So.
Yeah, I think they're still there.
But Eldar are also a very good teams army because they just keep games close. The problem is they just lose a decent number of those close.
Yep. It happens. Yeah, Craft World's still in a great spot. But just Guard is still a little bit rough for them. Although, I've seen some Craft World lists that have been able to get wins over Guard, but it requires changing your list and then also still struggles with the very top end of Guard. But it lets Craft World get past most Guard opponents for what I've seen. But, getting it all the way there is hard. Speaking of all the way there, we want to just, we're going alphabetically. So we're out of the C's, we're into the D's.
Oh boy. I mean, yeah, let's talk about Dark Angels.
Dark Angels!
They definitely go in Dark Angel tier, right? Yeah, they're the best army in the game right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
They are... Yeah, they are. Yeah, D tier for Dark Angels. It's no secret. See what I did there? Yeah, Dark Angels are just ludicrous. The Terminator pressure combined with being a good Devastator chapter, meaning that they have great Desolator access. They also have insane named characters and unique units to complement this. Strong secondary game, even by the standards of Space Marines, which have a strong secondary game.
They're also kind of the case of you can make a 4,000 point army out of busted units.
Yeah, honestly, it does feel like we could go nerf the archetypal like Dark Angel list, and then there would be another Dark Angel list that was still in like A+ tier.
Yeah, they're a very good army. Then they got Desolation Marines.
Yeah.
And that was not okay. If there's one army that needed to not have Desolation Marines, it's Dark Angels.
They definitely did not need the buff.
Oh, if they stand still, they get +1 to hit, John. If they stand still behind a wall, over the river and through the woods, grandmother's house, they get +1 to hit.
Yeah. Maybe Ezreal
Awesome.
Maybe Ezreal will help them out.
Cool. Yeah, full rerolls while we're at it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Dark Angels strong.
Yeah.
Deathwing Terminators obviously make a great anvil. That hits hard in combat, is slow moving, but is just a righteous pain in the rear to remove. The Lion is a nice contribution that isn't really necessary, but is still really cool. Talon Masters are great.
Talon Masters are insane.
Azrael just parks in the middle of that army and is like, maybe the Terminators, maybe the Desolators, someone's getting Chapter Master, and then also a 4-up invul just in case you're trying to crack back at me with your Desolators.
Yep. And also, on top of that, we still got Raven Wing, which is an incredible army.
Yep.
They score like just the biggest jerks in the world. Try stopping a Raven Wing player from getting a 15 on behind enemy lines. I dare you. I double dog dare you. You know what I had to do to stop... To attempt to stop behind enemy lines against Raven Wing when I played them at Cherokee?
Literally fell out of
I literally drew in a line from the top end of the board to the bottom end of the board with models that they couldn't shoot to death. There's all pink cars. Literally just hands across America to try to stop behind enemy lines.
Did it work?
And you know what? It didn't work, John. It didn't work.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It is very crazy how strong Dark Angels can score. I mean, between behind enemy lines and then access to Stubborn Defiance, they're great at Codex Warfare because they just take Talon Masters and Desolator Marines.
And attack bikes.
And bikes and whatever they want.
Land speeders. All of them are crazy.
Strong characters. Yeah, Dark Angels. There's going to be a couple other armies that I think can genuinely compete with Dark Angels for the top spot. But when we're looking at the tiebreakers, and when we have those armies up there, we'll probably revisit this conversation. I think Dark Angels just sneak ahead.
Yeah,
every time.
I think there's two other armies that are gonna jump into S tier.
I think we know the two.
We know the two. I mean, don't want to spoil it for the people in chat. But John and I know we didn't collaborate on this ahead of time. We don't know where we're gonna put all these. But John and I know the other two armies that are going up here.
Absolutely true. Yep.
Yeah, and they're just not as good as Dark Angels.
Sadly true.
Yes.
Sadly true. So I think that's just Dark Angels on top, and they are going to the top of S tier. Drukhari are next, though. Speaking of elves that I want to get nerfed, these ones don't deserve it, though. I acknowledge that. Drukhari still have half of what made them the boogeymen of early 9th, but boy, has the rest of the edition caught up.
It sure has. Remember when it used to be you just couldn't kill Drukhari because they had too much stuff?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, it was weird. 7 raiders was just too much beef to deal with.
And I remember the lengths that we were going to try and kill a Drukhari army. We went to some dark places to get the right amount of damage output to put it down. We
went to Deathwatch having literally, I'm just going to pick Raider, and I'm going to reroll wounds against Raider this turn.
Yeah.
And that was what did it.
With the army that was an aura of +1 hit against fly.
Yes.
That was about the only way we did it. We're like, screw it, we're just going to kill every Raider in line of sight.
It was the only way to actually kill a Drukhari army in any kind of speed.
Yeah, because if you get all the Raiders and then they have to foot slog to you from a respectable distance away, you're good.
But if you demech them in the middle of the board, you're going to find yourself...
you're already dead.
You're going to be de-united in a turn.
Yeah, it's it's like the anime protagonist slices, and then the villain pops all the raiders and is like, I'm good, and then his torso slides off his legs and he's like, oh god, incubi.
Oh no. I mean, it was hilarious watching Nick play Quentin at ATC. Nick was playing triple Tantalus. Triple Tantalus into Tau, full shooting Tau, a nerf ago. Like a good list. And Nick just deployed on the line, went first, jammed every single boat in Quentin's deployment zone. Quentin successfully killed everything on his turn.
Killed all
three Tantali and shot some units up, and then died on the following turn.
Yeah, because just characters and cheap units pouring out of ruins. Just
every which way. Yeah, it's they're still quite good. They have some of the best combat characters in the entire game still. They have probably... they have probably 2 of the top 5 best combat characters in the game. For their points.
For points, yeah.
For points,
probably do.
Yeah. If we're talking raw power, it's like,
Sure,
the
but it's the
Bloodthirster or
fact that
something.
something with... Yeah, exactly.
It's an 85-point character that rerolls hits and wounds and fights twice and has 14 attacks at the end of the day. Like,
Woo!
Drazar,
Yep,
the Succubus.
Yeah, I think that Drukhari have just fallen hard to the wayside. And again, I think that Drukhari actually really struggled to get that top-end finish.
Yes.
And their win rate's also not great, which I'm like looking at, I'm like, oh, because like there's some armies that are like a little bit below 50% win rate. Like Drukhari and Harlequins, if we're just comparing them, are 1% different on win rate.
No.
That 1%.
I'm looking at the stats right now, and I see that that's correct, but it's wrong.
But it's wrong, yeah.
It's wrong.
Harlequins feel so much more likely to punch up and get a tournament win with a strong player behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And Drukhari feels like they're just going to run into that, oh no, guns problem too often, and they're not as able to play around it.
This is also kind of a personal thing. Mm-hmm. I played so much Drukhari against Drukhari so many times during Drukhari summer.
Yep.
And
Drukhari winter and Drukhari spring and Drukhari fall. And then the next Drukhari spring.
It was Drukhari summer and then Admech winter.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was Drukhari summer, Admech winter.
Yes.
And in Drukhari summer, I played so much of it that I just know the army inside and out now. And it's like all of us are really, really good anti-Drukhari players.
That is true. I am so entirely sick of Drukhari. Still. Because I just had to play into them so many times. I mean... you remember, like, there's, like, a 3-month stretch where Nick just, like, sat at the gaming table as we each, like, ran our specifically tailored counters into him, and he would just beat them down one at a time. We would, like, scurry back to the drawing board and be like, okay, next time I'll try Ultramarine suppressors, and then I finally got him. But I honestly think they're C tier.
Now?
Yeah. I think they're worse than Necrons. I think they're worse than all 4 of these armies in B tier.
Oh, they're definitely better than Blood Angels.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Both armies just die when you look at them. Drukhari are just way better at actually getting there. I actually think they are better. I think they're like a poster child for B. They're fast. They are in transports. They can do fast transporty things.
Yeah, but the units
Not
don't
as good
hit
as
nearly
Harlequins.
as hard as they used to. Because the rest of the meta has caught up stat-wise.
Incubi are still quite good.
Yeah.
With removal of Armor of Contempt, they do a lot more damage than they used to.
They definitely can still kill a Space Marine if they get the claws on them.
I mean, I just don't think... I don't think they're that bad right now. I think they're like... Mm-hmm. I think they're below average, but I think most of the armies are not C and D tier. Like, I think they fall B tier, personally. Like, that's me, but I'm not going to argue extensively if you think that they're...
Yeah, I mean, we can put them right here in the B tier metric, and then we can reevaluate, but someone's got to join CSM down there.
I mean, CSM... Well, we know there's some armies, especially one maybe coming up, that are going to not be in the top half of tiers, let's put it. In my mind, Drukhari are like the poster child of a B tier army. Of just like... There's nothing about Drukhari that's broken. Mm-hmm. They're just fine across the board.
Yep. I mean, I agree with that. I guess I just think that like they don't have that bit of tournament winning potential that an army like not that Blood Angels have a lot of it or that Admech have a lot of it, but I feel like they have less than either of those. I don't know. We can always reevaluate. I'll put them here for now.
Yeah, we're going to reevaluate tiers in a little bit.
In a little bit, anyways.
Yeah. The inter-tier stuff.
Death Guard. I mean, this is not a B tier army. I don't think they're D. I think they're going to end up at the bottom of C, though.
Is there anything in... Well, there's one thing in D.
I can think of at least 2 armies that I think are worse than Death Guard.
Does it start with an R and an
I? One of them starts with an R.
One of them starts with an I.
No, I was honestly going to say that was better than Death Guard.
I can see it, honestly.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I think Death Guard. You're thinking C or D?
They're just not good, man.
Yeah. So Drukhari are one of those armies that Death Guard is one of those armies that I think is managing to be worse than their win rate, and their win rate is only 44%.
Yeah.
But I think that Death Guard have very little to no ability to punch up and win a large event. We see Death Guard win local events, small events, but we really just don't see Death Guard go the distance in a large event that is like a national sized event.
Yeah.
Like something that, like if in the United States, that'd be an event that gets people to fly to it.
Yes.
Like once people start buying airline tickets, Death Guard just step down from the podium.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Occasionally you can run a list and you pair into Death Guard.
And you can be like, oh crap, this doesn't actually work.
Oh, right. I have like a bad matchup into Death Guard randomly. And it's like turns into a fun fact for your army. Like, hey, guess what? This army actually has like a weirdly bad Death Guard matchup. Mm-hmm. But
it's fine because I probably won't.
You probably won't have to play them at top.
Yeah, there was a point where like when Blood Angels were pushing A+, like arguing for S tier a while back, they still kind of had a not great.
What was this?
When Blood Angels were like A+, like bordering on S tier, they were really good. Like peak Blood Angels in the last like a couple months ago, when they were just peak Blood Angels, great. They still had a not great Death Guard matchup where they could win it.
Yeah,
but it wasn't good.
No, there's always been like a top army that has like a weirdly bad Death Guard matchup.
Yep.
And it's funny, and we all appreciate it, and it's haha tee hee, you lost to Death Guard, or more honestly, you had a hard game into Death Guard.
Yeah, it's usually how it actually
went. Usually how it goes, is you don't actually lose to them, you just have like you got a close win against them. Mm-hmm. You know.
But then occasionally, there's just so many armies that are towards the top end that don't even blink if they see Death Guard against them.
No, it's just like, thank you for going 3-0. Mm-hmm. Hope you have fun in the 3-1 bracket.
Yeah.
Like Iron Hands? But not even that.
Chaos Knights.
Admech. Yeah.
Craft Worlds.
No, it's bad.
Like
Harlequins have a weirdly hard
Harlequins have a weirdly hard Death Guard matchup. There you go. Yeah. I really hope Death Guard just get a little more dimension in 10th edition. Because at the moment, they're not that great at scoring. They're very slow. They're durable, but can't stop you from wailing on them over and over.
Yeah.
And so if you can't kill Death Guard in one turn, don't worry, you'll get a second one.
Yes. And I will say, I wish Death Guard were a little better. Mm-hmm. You know, they're just not.
Yeah, YOLO White Scars do hate more turn. It's a fair point. Yeah, yes. White Scars awkwardly don't like Death Guard.
Yeah, so the thing we're talking about is like a whole bunch of armies have like weirdly bad Death Guard matchups. Mm-hmm. This doesn't actually help out Death Guard that much.
No, this makes some people lose to Death Guard. It doesn't help Death Guard win consecutive games.
Yeah. Death Guard can like randomly be favored into a good army, but they're still going to go like 3-2 tops.
Yeah.
Like
you can see good Death Guard players break that 4-1 bracket.
Yeah.
We saw Death Guard win a little bit in the past with Abaddon.
Yeah, I had a very, very hard game in the 4-0 game against Noah Nundorfer at Valdosta.
Who's in the chat?
Who is in the chat. That's why I shouted him out. Mm-hmm. But the weirdly hard Death Guard games don't mean that Death Guard gets to win consistently against top players playing top armies.
Yeah, and I think that Death Guard struggle the most with trying to reach that top tier because they just have so many matchups where it's like, oh, I move 5 inches. At the end of the day, against Imperial Guard, you move 5 inches a turn and you don't come close to out shooting them and you don't come close to outscoring them.
Yes.
And you can't go from behind safety to engaging them in any meaningful fashion.
Yes.
Like there isn't an approach plan.
Yeah. Good grind in the center armies can have a tough time into Death Guard because they don't have a way to exploit the massive gaping weakness that Death Guard have. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean the weakness isn't there.
Yep.
And, you know, as good of a player as Noah is, his efforts would be well rewarded if he went in a different direction rather than an army that is locked to 5-inch move durable units that aren't actually that durable.
Yeah. So I think we're done ragging on Death Guard as much as they don't deserve it.
So now time to rag on a different army?
Yeah, time to rag on a different Death army. Deathwatch, an army I think is genuinely worse than Death Guard.
I do as well.
Straight to the bottom.
Yeah, they're real bad.
It is the worst army in the game.
Imagine not getting to benefit from the Oh, so here's why they're bad.
Please, take it away. I was about to do this rant, but you...
No. You know what? You go.
Please, good sir.
Thank you.
I insist. I could not possibly accept these new rule changes. I insist you have them.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you know how Space Marines got buffed? What if there was a reason the Deathwatch just didn't get those buffs, and this didn't get fixed forever? So you know how the strongest change to Space Marines, by far, was the Doctrines change, where you could just sit in Devastator Doctrine all game. You take that with Codex Warfare, and you just score 1,000,000 points, and your opponent dies. Right? That is...
Yep.
That's what Space Marines got for losing Armor of Contempt, which was a massive nerf. They got a massive buff. And those two did not... armies that didn't benefit from the Devastator Doctrine change dropped off pretty hard.
Yeah, Blood Angels, White Scars. Some armies were able to sneak through the gaps. We'll talk about one notable exception later. Deathwatch is the opposite.
Exactly. Deathwatch doesn't get the Devastator Doctrine change because of the way that their army is worded. The way their army is worded, when you are pure Deathwatch, you replace the regular doctrines with your new thing. Right? You replace how you select doctrines in the book with a new list of how you pick your doctrines. And it used to be a buff. It used to be you could choose your doctrines in any order. But now that you don't ever have to leave Devastator Doctrine, which is by far the best way to play Marines, you replace that with you get to pick Devastator Doctrine once.
Insane.
It is the biggest rules oversight that GW has allowed to stand in this year, I'm pretty sure.
The fact that they have not FAQ'd it yet blew my mind. The fact that it wasn't in the day one FAQ, I was surprised, and I honestly thought... I think our last tier list, we ranked Deathwatch under the assumption that GW would fix this in the next 2 days.
Yes.
And they just haven't.
They just haven't. Deathwatch did not get any of the buffs, and they took all of the nerfs. And yikes.
Yeah. No, Deathwatch's doctrine thing does not get turned off by Agents of the Imperium because Agents of the Imperium specifically says it doesn't turn off your pure rules.
Yes.
So if you take a Freeblade Light Knight, it doesn't break the anti-combo and you're still screwed. You know what the best Deathwatch list I've seen is? It's Deathwatch with a Talon Master.
Yep.
And then you lose your Deathwatch trait and your at the same time as your doctrines, and you also don't get as many relics and warlord traits. But you get doctrines and a Talon Master. It
used to be that I would put Gulliman into the list in order to break it, and then like a week or two later, they FAQ'd that Gulliman doesn't break Codex specific stuff, and I legitimately looked at that and went, "Damn,
what a nerf to Deathwatch."
Yeah,
wild.
Because it used to be you take Gulliman in a Deathwatch army, it would break the Deathwatch special thing that replaces the text with something else, and you're like, sick, let's go. You don't get relics, you don't get warlord traits, but you actually get doctrines.
It's just so unfortunate.
Yeah, the best way to play Deathwatch is to not play Deathwatch.
That's true. Deathwatch
that's 100% true.
A ton of good rules, but that one massive oversight has them as, by a mile, the worst Space Marine chapter.
Yeah, and there's some competition.
There are bad Space Marine chapters, and you know what? Deathwatch have a higher win rate than 2 other Space Marine chapters. I don't believe it. I think those are the 2 Space Marine chapters below them could be better. It's just that once you get to the bottom third of Space Marine chapters, well, no one's really trying anymore.
Yeah, if you're taking Raven Guard to events, you know what's happening. If you take Deathwatch to events or Imperial Fists or whatever, you know what's going on. And nobody who is seriously trying to win an event and putting their best foot forward
is looking at the bottom half of Space Marines.
You're paying a lot of money to go to events. You know, it's a plane ticket. It's not always to a place that has a hub or something, so it's an expensive plane ticket, a hotel room, food and board for the time you're there. It's expensive. And if you're trying to win, if you're trying to have a good time, you can play whatever, and that's totally fine. And you'll have a good time.
Yeah, and that's a very valid way to enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, but anyone who's going to drive the win rate up is not going to be playing Deathwatch.
Yeah, or the other Space Marine chapters,
or Imperial
Raven
Fists.
Guard,
Or Raven Guard, sorry. Raven Wing they will.
Raven Wing said. Sadly, Deathwatch, my dear boys, I genuinely think just are going to be the bottom of this.
Yeah, I think they're the worst army in the game.
I do too. Anyways, armies that are better than Deathwatch.
Grey Knights!
Plenty of them left. Grey Knights. Grey Knights are better than Deathwatch.
Let's just start every single one off with that. Thousand Suns.
Yep.
Well, they're better than Deathwatch.
Jeez. Grey Knights are hard to rank. I think they have some cool stuff. You know, we had our wonderful Adam Camilleri visiting for a while. Actually, did some pretty good work with Grey Knights. He took a 4-1-1 at Cherokee. Did quite well at the Streamhouse RTT. Played them on quite a few of our coaching matches. Things well, but they still have some fundamental datasheet problems. They also did not get nearly as much love as other Space Marines did when they lost Armor Contempt.
Yeah. Functionally an armor save point across the board.
Yeah.
Which is rough.
But then Dread Knights weren't benefiting from Armor Contempt, so it's like Dread Knights didn't get any worse.
Yeah, my list would still... I haven't played them in Arks of Omen, unfortunately. It's one of those armies that I always want to take out of the closet, but like there's always another... There's like 10 armies that I play, so like one of them is just the one that doesn't get picked.
Yep.
Grey Knights, I think, are better than the win rate suggests. But if I were going to play them, it would be 4 Dread Knights for sure. 4 Dread Knights, 30 Interceptors.
Yeah.
And then you do get some good stuff after that.
Yeah, I feel like Grey Knights are going to fall into B tier, just because that just is kind of where it feels that they belong looking at the codexes.
Yeah.
I do think they're better than CSM and Death Guard by an appreciable margin. I do think they're worse than all of the Eldar variants in Chaos Knights and Custodes.
Yeah, they have a good Eldar matchup.
Yeah, they do actually have a good Eldar matchup, but I still
have a really
think
good one, yeah.
as an overall where they fall.
I mean, they score really well. They have consistency issues rather than power issues.
Yep.
You basically need your spells to go off consistently, turn after turn, in order to...
That's true.
If their spells... If they had, like, +1 to cast across the board, I'd put them in A tier without even, like, thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, if they pass their spells. If their spells were just one warp charge lower in a couple of the key spots.
Yep. I would just... The problem is they just have consistency issues. Because they are a good army. They just have consistency issues.
Yeah, every time I see them, like, fail Gate of Infinity on 3d6 take the highest, I'm just like, oh.
With a reroll, usually.
Yeah, super unfortunate, but that also just happens about 10 to 12% of the time you spend that CP. Like, I think if you spend the CP, you get it to about 90% to cast with a CP reroll.
I think it's higher than that, but, like, you're taking that risk with... That is the one spell you want to go off.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, people push you, and then you need, like, 3 or 4 spells to go off.
That's hard. Passing 3 or 4 spells reliably is really rough.
It's really rough. I think, in my mind, they're the... Now we've talked about Drukhari and Grey Knights, I think they're the poster child of B.
Fair, yeah.
Because they have... I think they're better than every single army in B tier, but they just cannot crack into top A because because they just cannot be consistent.
Yeah, they cannot ever be consistent. I'm fine putting it at the top. I think I want to grab 1 or 2 more codexes, and then we can kind of start evening out the tiers.
Yeah.
But
they're a strong army. They score really well. They have a lot of mobility. They have a lot of tricks. They just are not consistent.
Yep. Genestealer Cult.
Genestealer Cult.
Genestealer Cult. S tier, S++, the best army in the game. They have the highest win rate in the game.
You know, I mean, they're good.
I've
had a lot more experience with Genestealer Cult since Arks of Omen came out. I've had Anthony whispering in my ear, Mr. Vanilla himself, whispering in my ear, being like, "They're insane, they're nuts," and you know, they're better than we thought they were going into Arks of Omen.
Yeah,
for sure.
They got a lot in Arks of Omen though.
They did. They were better going into Arks of Omen than we thought they were, and I'll cop to that.
Still don't think they're good.
I think they're bottom of A. They're A. They're somewhere in A. They're good. Yeah, they are good. They have serious weaknesses.
I'll concede that they're better than most of the than all the armies in B tier. I don't know where they're going to fall in A tier yet, but they're not as good as their win rate suggests. No. In my mind, they don't get nearly as many event wins as the other armies that are similar win rates.
Yeah.
They have some matchups that are just untenably bad.
Yeah.
The meta changes have been unkind to them. They really don't like an increase in indirect. They really don't like indirect that's also blast. They really don't like Desolator Marines being in the meta.
Strength 4 indirect?
Yeah, Strength 4 blast indirect with AP. Also in the same army as the Infiltrators. It's like, oh.
Right.
There's not like...
I would have taken GSC to Cherokee, except Chex notes the top 2 armies are have 12-inch no-go zones across their whole army.
Yeah.
12-inch no-go zones protecting their whole army.
Yeah, in enough places that you're not getting around it.
Yeah. So, in terms of what they're good at, they deep strike and hit you really well. The GSC drop turn is legitimately scary. Mm-hmm. It's legitimately very scary. It is much scarier than I thought it was going into Arks of Omen. Mm-hmm. It is very good. But it has serious weaknesses. If you can screen it out until turn 3, the army turns into 6-inch moving dudes with a 5-up save.
Yeah, I've seen it happen so many times.
I've done it on stream multiple times. The drop turn's great, but then whatever gets through the drop turn is unfortunately just not the same army as the going into the drop turn. Once you've dropped on the board, your units are so much worse because they move 6 inches. They're easily tied up in combat, and it's unfortunate. They're just not the same army on the back half of the game. Yep. They score really, really well. But if you can keep the game close through the drop turn, you are going to run away at the back half.
Yes, that's how it has felt every single time I've played into them.
Every time I've played with them, every time I've played against them, it's that same thing.
Yeah, if I'm not down by 15 points by the time their reserves have landed and are done, I'm like, okay, cool, I'll just win now.
Yeah.
I think that Genestealer Cult just has a couple of matchups that are really hard to play. I think the army's also hard to play. I think their win rate is up because people don't casually play Genestealer Cult.
Yes. They go to an event and then they do things that have their opponents questioning what even 40k is anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're a not good Genestealer Cult player, if you're a new player, an inexperienced one, or maybe the army just doesn't click for you, I think that Genestealer Cult can just get blown out in a very demoralizing fashion, and at that point, you're probably just going to play a different army.
Yes.
And there's plenty of good armies right now. I think that people who know how to make Genestealer Cult work or who will put the time in, I think will just do well, and I think that Genestealer Cult will get a lot of positive win records. Yes. And that's why their win rate is close to 60%. But I don't think that they're very good at getting X and O.
Yeah, I think they are good, which is why we're playing.
Yeah, we're still putting them in A tier.
Like, they're good. What we're mostly talking about why we feel that their win rate is higher than the power level of the army.
Yeah.
In top players' hands.
It's a good way to phrase it.
It is a good army in a top player's hands. It's very strong. We don't put anything into A tier that isn't strong. For sure. But GSC has a lot riding on one turn.
Yes.
1 to 2 turns, maybe. And if the drop, as I said, if the drop turn goes poorly, which is the turn where their army shows up, gets all their crossfire and exposed on you, and starts just absolutely blasting, if you let that happen to you, you are dead.
It is pretty not good if you get the entire Genestealer Cult army on the chin.
Yeah, and there are some armies that are not great into that. Like, Aeldari do not like trying to protect against a GSC drop turn for multiple turns. But Harlequins have boats, for example. Harlequins don't care.
Yeah, but
it just varies pretty wildly. But then again, the top armies, which Guard has a 12-inch no-go zone aura that you can give to your entire army, basically.
Yeah,
and Space Marines have infiltrators. Basically, every good Space Marine army has 1 to 2 infiltrator units.
Yeah, I have not seen a space. I mean, the only ones that don't are Dark Angel Terminators, who will then just lead with a Dark Angel Terminator unit with -1 damage.
Yep,
and that'll probably be fine.
Yep, if you have shaky screening against them and they're good, you're dead. Sorry, you're just gone. You're off the table, and you go get an early launch.
All the good armies.
Or good players can screen out against them.
Yep.
And then they have to play a fair game down the stretch, down turn 5.
Never works.
And they are just not as good an army in the back half of the game as they are in the front. And that's, I think, the reason why they're not in S tier right now.
Yeah.
For us.
So I'll put them in A. We can kind of sort out where they are. I think we just toss one more army in and then we go start ranking within the tiers. This one will be easy.
Imperial Fists.
Imperial Fists. They are...
C tier, I think.
I agree. They are, at the end of the day, a Space Marine chapter that gets better in Devastator Doctrine. And funny enough, they have that awkwardly hilarious, oh, this army's actually kind of good into Guard.
Yeah, Desolation Marines are pretty good into Guard.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if we're ranking on power level, I think they're honestly in B tier. They're just
Imperial Fists?
Yeah, but there's no way I can actually put them there. They're just terrible in comparison to Iron Hands.
They are, yeah.
So much so that anyone who would play Imperial Fists or Iron Hands, who is remotely competent, will just play Iron Hands.
So harsh. Not wrong, just so harsh.
Or if you love your Imperial Fists, then play your Imperial Fists. There's nothing wrong with that.
But if you're going into this and you're the kind of person who's going to try to make competitive decisions in order to maximize your win rate, then you're going to pick a non-Imperial Fist because they're just clearly suboptimal at their thing to another chapter.
Yeah.
So if you have your Purple Marines that are going to be played as a chapter, you're going to never pick Imperial Fists.
Exactly.
And if you are the kind of player that wants to then play Imperial Fists and is committed to that, you're probably not going to then take ultra-optimized Devastator Doctrine Murder. You're just going to say, well, I'm going to take my Imperial Fists.
Yeah. I will say, this is not a value judgment on the player or how or whatever. It's an analysis of why Imperial Fists have the lowest win rate.
Yeah.
It's because if you have a choice and you are trying to, and you're trying to maximize your win rate, everybody can see that Imperial Fists are worse than Iron Hands.
Yes.
At doing the exact same thing.
Also true.
But like, if you like Imperial Fists, if you are a good player, you can still get above 50% win rate with Imperial Fists easy.
Yeah. Yeah, you could go positive at an event with Imperial Fists.
Yeah.
I think any army in the game can go positive.
Yeah. Deathwatch even can go positive.
They even can. Someone was in the chat saying that there's a 4-1 Deathwatch that almost went 5-0 at an event this weekend.
You can do it. Player skill matters a lot more than army power level. It's when the two combine.
That's when you get real good stuff.
That's when you get really good stuff.
So yeah, I think Imperial Fists are C tier. I think that they're towards the bottom of it, but they are definitely better than Deathwatch. I don't think they're as good as CSM. Like even saying you can just take a worse version of Dev Weapon Spam. Maybe, but like I just arguing between like the this and that just is so uninteresting to me. We could put them at top of C. We could put them at bottom of C. I don't think it changes anything.
Yeah, I think it's mostly the Dev Doctrine plus Codex Warfare is
still a good combo.
Gross, even if you have special rules to go with it. Mm-hmm. Ignores cover. They have ignores cover.
Yeah.
They have ignores cover Desolation Marines. You just take 20 of those.
I was genuinely thinking like the next time Nick's on a tier list, I think the day before I'm going to ask him to play against my Imperial Fist Desolator Marines.
Oh yeah.
And just see where we can get him to put the army.
A for sure.
A for sure.
A for sure. Maybe S, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I do actually think that if you make a really just cancerous shooting Imperial Fists army, I think it is.
You mean if you take an Iron Hands list, put in Imperial Fists, cut the Vanguard Veterans, put in Desolator Marines?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that is better than CSM.
Yeah, really might. Might be. I mean, yeah, sure. Honestly, let's put them up top. Give the Imperial Fists some love.
Are they better than any other Marine at doing that exact same job? I mean, they're better than Blood Angels at that role.
Yeah.
But they're not better than Blood Angels in general.
That's completely true. Yeah, I'm okay putting Imperial Fist right there, honestly.
Yeah.
However, I think that we are now at a good point to go reanalyze the rankings. So I think C tier. Are you happy with where C tier is right now?
Kind of. I feel like D is the just like forget about it tier.
Yeah, it's absolutely when will my FAQ return for more?
Yeah.
Can I do that? When will my Devastator Doctrine return for more?
When will Dev Doctrine return?
There you go. This is what Deathwatch is right now.
Yeah, then that leaves kind of the rankings a little bunched up, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Right? Dark Angels and Demons don't really belong in the same tier.
Demons and... Really? You don't think so?
But I think Demons don't belong in A.
Yeah, I think Demons are S tier. I just think that they're the bottom of it.
That's fair, I guess. I think it's fine going down the stretch, honestly. I think it's fine so far.
A tier, how do we feel about of these 5, I think I'm okay with Custodes being the top.
Yeah, I think Chaos Knights.
I think GSC on it. Yeah, I was going to say, I think GSC, sad to say that it is, and I also think Chaos Knights are good into GSC. I think GSC are probably better than Chaos Knights.
Yep. I think Harlequins into the field are better than Chaos Knights.
Also true. I honestly think Craft World is better into the field than Chaos Knights as well, which is funny because I think Chaos Knights is very good into most of the A tier armies. It just so happens that these books are capable of playing into the S tier, and Chaos Knights are not.
Straight up.
They can play into Demons. That's actually a game I've never played, and one that I've tried it several times to arrange, but it's never happened.
I actually think stomp demons.
I think that they can do well, but I've seen demons beating Chaos Knights, so I want to kind of get myself. So I can't really comment on that game much.
It does depend, right? It depends, because I think that some demon units are good into Chaos Knights, and if you happen to just not take any of those, like I've beaten Chaos Knights with demons a couple times. It never felt fun.
Yeah, it's never easy.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, so I can get behind this being the S and A tier. B tier is the one where I think we've had the most, like, let's rank this later.
Yeah, and I think we need to keep going, and then we'll come back to it.
We'll come back to B a little bit more.
I feel like B is the one that's most break-upable.
Absolutely is, yeah. Yeah, I do kind of wish that we had a second B tier. So lesson for next time, we'll put a B plus and a B minus, and we'll do that for a couple of these. Yeah. I think A plus and A minus could be different as well, because I just can't, like, in good conscience, put demons on the same tier as Chaos Knights.
Yeah, no, they're just not the same.
Yeah, they're not. It's not the same. But also, I'm not willing to put Chaos Knights in the same level layer as some of the armies down there.
Wow, Richard's on another computer. You beat Mark's Demons plus Mortarion monster match list on stream, John.
Technically not true. I simply, on turn 5, said, if I stay still, I win. Then I charged Mortarion.
It's true.
Yeah, bottom of 5, I moved off an objective to try to kill Mortarion. So there's a little bit of a context in that game. Hey, let's talk about another one of my armies, though. We're getting there, right?
Yeah.
Imperial Guard?
Yep, that's another...
that's up to S, right?
Straight up to S.
I think this slots nicely in the middle here, right?
Yep.
I think Imperial Guard is definitely better than Demons. I think they have pretty good play into Demons. I think that they are worse than Dark Angels. Still have play into them, but are just one step below.
Yeah, how Guard matches up into Demons matters dramatically on how the demon player builds their army.
Yep. A little bit on how the Guard did as well, I think, but
True.
less so.
True.
Definitely the demon build matters a lot.
The more Zinch the demons take, the better they're going to be.
Yep. And then the more counterpunch and skirmish units the Guard took, the better they're going to be.
Yeah.
I think having units like Armored Sentinels is massive for this.
Well, that could be fair. I haven't been privy to your Guard dealings.
Mm-hmm. The version of the list that I have played on TTS and not in person, because I have a bunch of Sentinels still in shrink wrap, is a lot better.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I need to actually get off my butt and build those Sentinels. They just take so long.
They do take quite a while.
But anyways, talking about Guard. Obviously, Guard are still sitting around with full strength Kasrkin. Born Soldiers is awesome. Yeah, here we are. The Finial doing fun things for mortars. Guard mortars are very matchup defining. I've had so many games where Guard mortars do nothing, and then there are so many games that I'm not willing to play because we both look at the table and we're like, so anyways, I can't hit your mortars and you're going to table me, right? And I'm like, yep. So we just don't practice that game.
Yeah, mortars are still okay into every army, but they're brutal into some, and they're only 165 points for
It's such a low investment to just crack half the matchups.
Yeah. They also, Guard have a selection of every single rule in the entire game at their fingertips.
Not only the shooting ones.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Every single shooting and utility
If I could find a way to advance and charge, I would do it.
Sure. Sure, I guess. Yeah. Let's not distract from the point that, like...
Your Guard is an insanely good army.
Guard is insanely good. And they have a great shooting. They have an excellent, screw you button where they just drop Kasrkin forward and just go, no.
Yes. They have good shooting across the board, and when you pressure them in one spot, they have a good answer that can get to that one spot. So
yeah.
It's because normally if something is just generically good across the board, you try to focus in on one spot and, like, not get shot by half the army, get half the army, try to weather it, crush the flank.
Yeah. And
then if they do that, the caster can meet you where, and you're like, oh, going somewhere?
Yeah, your whole army disintegrates to an 100-point unit.
Only the first 3 units.
Only any 3 units they decide.
Yeah, that's true.
To kill. Yes.
As long as I get to reroll, I'm good.
Yeah, it was very fun doing some workshopping into Guard where I just played like 6 games in a row of, well, I do get tabled by Kasrkin in like a single turn, don't I?
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kasrkin are obviously bonkers. The rest of the army is merely really, really good.
Yeah, without Kasrkin, I think the army is still S tier.
It might be A+, might be S tier. I'd have to play with it a little bit to find out, but it definitely, if they just take Kasrkin out, this army's not going below 50% win rate.
No.
It's still going to be a good army that can contend for tournaments. It's a little bit one-dimensional, and I think that keeps them from being the top of S tier because they do have that small, very hard to unlock problem of if you can weather the storm and get there, aka if you can rush a Rust gun line through forests with a -1 to hit built in, and then it's like, you're not actually that good at killing me if the Casterkin didn't do it, and then suddenly you're there.
Yeah.
Suddenly, and if you can go really fast and tag them, if you have trap and combat plays, but if you try to do it out of reserves, it's 12-inch no-go zone. If you try to cross the line, you might die to indirect. If you try to tag the wrong thing, you might get shot into combat.
Yeah.
Or they might countercharge you and do enough and tie you up while they table the rest of your army. They might just outscore you in a staring contest. It's very hard to get past the guard weaknesses. I think they have a little bit more weaknesses than Archangels, but we're still comparing S tier here.
Yeah, it is very difficult to try to beat guard without falling into just getting shot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, beating guard without getting shot is a difficult task.
It's rough.
It's hard to do.
It's rough, man.
Don't really see people do it that often.
Passively outscoring's hard. Deep striking's hard. Like everything's rough. In trying to play into guard, and they just have a lot of really good rules because they have 18 rules off their orders, and 90% of them are good.
Yeah, the orders have a really good depth to them.
Yeah,
I do use most of them. Well, funny enough, after Imperial Guard, we immediately got to Iron Hands.
Yeah, I think the debate here is going to be, are Iron Hands better than Imperial Guard? And I
don't
know the answer to that.
In my mind, Iron Hands are better than Guard. I don't think it's by a large margin. I think the introduction of Desolators has just flipped them in the standings.
I could see that.
Desolators are ruinous for Guard.
Especially in that matchup, Desolators do naughty things to Guard.
Yeah, but I think we're in clear agreement that Iron Hands and Guard are S tier.
Yep.
And at that point, I think both of these books have positive matchups into everything below them or very close to positive.
Yeah.
Maybe we find out that Custodes are 51% into Iron Hands. Sure. I still think Iron Hands are better.
Yeah, I would be surprised, but it's possible.
It's possible.
Basically, I would agree. Desolation Marines, which were not part of the meta when we originally ranked Arks of Omen, Desolation Marines flipped the matchup. I would say Guard were better than Iron Hands before that, but now Iron Hands are better than Guard because they just have better indirect than Guard does.
Yeah.
And also it's indirect that's very good into Guard. And once you reach S tier, your matchups into the other S tiers do matter quite a lot.
Yeah. I honestly think, on release of Arks of Omen, I think that our S tier was literally these three armies flipped, where it was Guard, Iron Hands, and then Dark Angels. And I think now it's just completely flipped, and because I think Dark Angels were a little bit better than we thought. And we knew they were good. We knew they were good. Oh yeah, we knew they were very good, but they were a little better than even we thought then. They were somehow S+. And then also Desolators just bumped both Marine books up one level.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the fact that Desolation Marines are going to be in quite a few Space Marine armies makes Imperial Guard's job much harder.
Yeah, because an Imperial Guard list that wants to win a Super Major realistically is going to go through... If I was playing a 9-round event with Imperial Guard, I would expect to play against 3 lists that had Desolators.
Yep, probably 10 plus in each one.
Yep.
So you probably play against 30 Desolators over the course of the event or more. And the Desolation Marines are really good in Guard. All your infantry takes a dirt nap immediately.
Yeah.
And then your tanks also die to shooting.
It's very, very, very rough. Yeah, you can take Earthshakers into Desolators, but Earthshakers are very hard to hide, and on most terrain formats, they'll get shot by a Contemptor or Drop Pod or something after one volley goes off, and then the Apothecary will slowly stand up the Desolators that didn't actually die that fast because they had a 4-up Invuln and Transhuman and a 6-up Feel No Pain.
Yep, and you're taking the indirect penalty, and...
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, you run the numbers and you realize that a squad of Earthshakers doesn't actually do as much damage as you want it to into Desolation Marines. Between resing a model, the Invuln, the Transhuman, the 6-up Feel No Pain, the indirect penalty. If they find a forest
to sit behind for the turns while they're waiting, it's like, oh, this
something
is
you on 6s?
Goes to 5s.
With take aim?
With take aim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Not good.
Great.
Not good. Do they get the benefit of the finial?
No, they're not core.
5s.
Yeah, if they were core, I would genuinely take them.
Yeah.
As it is, the profile is a little bit too big for me to justify. Yeah, that's kind of the problem with them.
I think that's S tier set. I don't see any other armies joining them.
I don't see anyone else joining them. I do genuinely think that we are good in this order for S tier. right?
Yeah.
I think Dark Angels and Iron Hands can have really good games that are disgusting for a casual viewer to observe, because it's just so insane. But I think Dark Angels are slightly favored to everything below them. I think Iron Hands are slightly favored to everything below them. I think Guard are favored into Demons. And I think Demons are lowest S tier army, but have the potential to beat any of these. I think Iron Hands is actually the worst for them.
For Demons?
Yeah.
Or?
Of the ones above them. I think Demons have better play into Dark Angels than Iron Hands.
Maybe.
But at that point, it's like,
really
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Demons exist between S and A tier. Like, they're not the same as the other three armies.
Yeah, they're somewhere here.
They're somewhere like there-ish.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, Imperial Knights.
Imperial Knights are an army that breaks my heart. I
Why is
really
that?
want them to be good.
I think they are.
But
I think they are good.
I don't think they are. I think that they are. I don't know. I'm not a very big fan of where Imperial Knights sit right now, honestly. Because
if you try to tell me they're in C tier, I'm going to laugh at you.
I genuinely think they're worse than every army in B tier.
Ha ha ha. I don't think that's the case. I straight up don't think that's the case. I think they are similar enough to Chaos Knights. They have much better play into their bad matchups, in my opinion, because you do have the ability to go like, these guys are 5 models OBSEC with a -1 damage and a 4-up invuln, and like I think that's just a big deal there. And I think the 5 models OBSEC, they're a very generically strong army. They're not good at any one particular thing, I think.
I think that they just get bullied by so much of the top.
Yeah, I don't
now.
think they're above. I think they're better than Black Templars and Blood Angels. Personally, I would feel much more comfortable taking Imperial Knights to an event than Blood Angels. Now, would I run into one heavy shooting army and go 4-1? Sure, but like
I think that Imperial Knights aren't very good in melee, aren't very good in shooting.
They're still pretty good in shooting.
They're still good in shooting, but then they get shot so easily that all of the other shooting armies are gonna find a way. I feel like Imperial Knights are just the ultimate mid-level gatekeeper right now.
Yeah, but they're significantly better at that than any of the stuff in C tier. Like, they're not the same as those armies. Honestly, I feel like Imperial Knights are better than Necrons. I feel like they're better than Drukhari. I feel like they're better than Blood Angels.
Yeah, they could end up in like middle of B tier maybe, but like I think that they have less expression for player skill than most of those armies, and I think that they're less likely to reach the top tables than any of those armies. And I think that they have more bad matchups up ahead of them than those armies do.
That's all true, but if they didn't have all of that stuff, I would say that they were higher. Like, I think I think that stuff pushes them down to where I would have them, rather than
So you think you've already factored it into them?
I've already factored it in. It's already priced in. Because I think they have massive weaknesses, but they have things that they're insane.
But I think that a good Imperial Knights player is not going to go as far as is not going to have as much potential or do as well as a good Blood Angel player or a good Admech player or even a good Necron player.
You have a lot higher faith in Blood Angels than I do, my man.
I know. Someone's got to hype them up, but I have so little faith in Imperial Knights right now.
I have a lot more faith in Imperial Knights than you do.
That's true.
Yeah.
I have a lot less than you do.
That's true. I mean, I see the power. You take a free blade lane. I mean, we know the list, right?
Yeah, there's one archetype really for Imperial Knights left, which is the Freeblade Lance. We've seen some people do well with House Raven. Shout out to Noah in the Pacific Northwest who's putting some good work, but I still think it's not. I just don't think it's it.
I mean, that's a fundamental difference of our opinions then. I think it's mid B. You clearly think it's like top C or something.
I think it's like top C, yeah.
I fundamentally disagrely with that.
Yep.
Like, I've played the army. I think it is middle B tier.
Have you played it in Arks of Omen?
I've played... maybe not. I haven't played with it. I was going to say I played against it. You played against it in Arks? I'm trying to remember if I have. That's why I was saying maybe not.
I just think that the way the meta has evolved has gone very against what Imperial Knights want to do.
Sure. I don't think they're going to do great, but I think that they're better than like a lot of those other armies in B tier. Personally.
I mean, I'll put them bottom of B. I'll meet in the middle because I think they're top of C. You think they're middle B?
I think they're mid B. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put them here. I get a stomach putting them ahead of Drukhari.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're better than than Blood Angels. Blood Angels feel like an army that doesn't work.
Do you think that Blood Angels are better than Admech or worse than Admech?
I don't know Admech very well, honestly.
Fair.
Admech to me just seems like broken rules, but I know that they're not. like I know that they're worse than they look to me, but I think they're worse than Admech. I think Blood Angels are worse than Admech.
Yeah, I moved them down below it.
Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah. All right, let's address some stuff in the chats real quick. Let me make sure that we've got everyone.
Let's go.
Okay, I think we've got them all. So Shackleton Mangrum has been a member for 10 months. Thank you, Shackleton. Have y'all played any of the new Horus Heresy on your own time? If not, would you do a stream game of it if I paid you enough money? Shackleton Mangrum, we have not played any Heresy, unfortunately. And I think the biggest obstacle to a stream game there would be the armies. Because we just don't have Horus Heresy armies.
Yes.
So, if you drive down to the good old stream house and give us 4,000 points of painted Horus Heresy, call us first to make sure that we would do it. But that would be kind of the precondition. And I think that's a little too high of a barrier for entry. Really appreciate your support, Shackleton. You're a hero, hopefully of the Imperium, not of the Heresy. But unfortunately, no Heresy in Art of War anytime soon.
Yes, unfortunately not.
And then we have a super chat from Bob Woodhouse. With a $10 super chat, thank you so much for your support. It genuinely does help us grow this channel. We really, really appreciate it. All right. To place well over the long run, what is the smallest number of armies you could own? If it takes 8 months to build each one, which ones would you buy given current meta plus the fog of the future? So I don't think that placing well over the long run is determined by the number of armies you own. I just don't think that those are...
I mean, if you're looking to always have an army that is decent, at least, I would basically own an army of different archetypes.
Yeah, that's fair.
GW typically undervalues speed. And it's also the highest skill expression in fast armies because you have more options at your fingertips.
True. So Eldar is traditionally just always an above average army.
Yeah, GW just doesn't price fast armies correctly. They typically overprice slow, durable armies. Because slow, durable armies, they just look at stats. They don't actually factor in that. Like, if you move 5 inches, you control a quarter of the board that if you move 10 inches, you do. Because, squared. So I would probably buy something like Eldar, which is fairly evergreen, or it has always been evergreen. I mean, we don't know what's coming up in the future.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have no concept of what armies will be good in 10th edition. Now, it's a fairly safe bet to say that Space Marines are good often.
That was going to be the second one I said.
Sometimes they're just bad.
Yeah, what I would do is Eldar is fairly evergreen. Gun Marines are fairly evergreen.
Yeah.
And
just owning Marines in general.
Marines in general is probably a good idea. And then after that, whatever you want, something weird and different.
Yeah. Kind of then honestly, I think it's own an Eldar army, own Space Marines, and then your favorite, if I was going to say pick 3.
Yeah.
All right. So we've made our way down to the Leagues of Votann.
Leagues of Votann.
What a weird army. I really don't know where to place them. Leagues of Votann, I think their scoring plan isn't great. So they are forced into a play style of murder. But then they are really good at that, but then sometimes it doesn't work and they just fall over.
Yeah, the scoring is just garbage. It's just bad. They have to table you, or they don't. They don't. They just don't do anything. So they have to kill you.
Yeah, in my mind, leagues can't be higher than B because they just don't have enough going for them. I think leagues are just B tier. I think they're just gonna be somewhere in B tier. I don't think they're great because I don't think that there's a lot of room for skill expression in Leagues of Votann. I feel like if they try to do a sit back game, then their opponent's wow, everyone has better secondaries than you.
Yeah.
And then they run at you, and then that works or it doesn't, and there's some skill in how you run at people, but still not.
You also, running at people tends to involve fast shooting and melee.
Yep.
And generally both.
Or it involves durable shooting. And
they are fairly durable. The problem is they lack ways to hit units behind walls.
Completely.
Because you can take berserks, and they are good at that job, but they are very overcosted, so you don't have a lot of them. And once you've run through a wall, you're kind of done running through that wall for the rest of the game.
Yep, that's where you live.
Yep.
Congratulations on your new residence. Maybe you'll get shot there. Maybe you'll get charged there. It's very funny if you get charged there.
Well, what I mean is, like, you go through a wall and you hit your opponent, and then they deal with it and they retake that position. You can't go through that wall again.
Yeah, once you're out of berserks, you have no more ability to walk to hit someone on the other side of an obscuring piece of terrain.
And what happens a lot is the land forts push, and then the land forts get tagged.
Yep, and the land forts sit there trying to kill the 5-man Battle Sister squad that tagged them, and then they spend a turn sitting there killing the 2 Seraphim that tagged them. And then they sit there, they just sit in the spot getting re-tagged by cheap stuff, never moving, never getting meaningful damage.
Yep, that's what seems to always happen. They have one turn that's like brutal, and then they're in combat.
Yeah.
With things that don't matter. Like, that's what happens. They're in combat with things they don't want to shoot.
Yeah. So I feel like Votann is going to fall into the bottom end of B tier to me.
Yeah, I think what is going to happen here, when in like a couple more armies, is we're going to have to move a bunch of stuff down.
Yeah.
So I think a couple C is going to move into D.
Yep, that does seem very possible.
That's what's going to happen, I think, is C is going to move to D, and then B is going to be split up between B and C.
Yeah. Where in this do you think Votann falls?
They're going to end up in the half that gets moved down to C, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're somewhere in between Imperial Knights. They could go anywhere in between Imperial Knights and Grey Knights in my mind, without me like making too big a fuss about it. I don't think they're better than Grey Knights. I do think they're better than Knights.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is because I think we just value Imperial Knights differently.
Yeah, we do. But, that's why we got 2 people on the tier list.
That's why we got 2 people on the tier list. I could see just putting them right there.
Right there. Yeah. Right in the middle, and we'll kind of see how it all falls together.
Yeah. Do you want to do the re-evaluating?
Yeah, you want to drop some things down?
Yep, so swap when will my Dev Doctrine return to D tier, because I think things that don't have Dev Doctrine are going to drop there.
Yeah.
And I think CSM are going to drop.
To D?
Well, I think it's just a reevaluation of what D means. Previously, earlier on this, D tier was garbage tier, and now it's just below whatever's in C.
Yeah.
So, like, what moves down to C tier? I think
we just make C tier bigger. I feel like Death Guard can drop, but I do feel like CSM is better than Death Guard.
Fair enough.
I'm Drukhari in C tier. Yeah.
It's just a reevaluation of what C tier means, I think.
Fair.
Because you can think of it as a B- tier.
Yeah.
And then below, I think Necrons and Blood Angels come down.
Right about
and then
there,
I think Chaos Knights come down to top of B.
I don't like that being in the same tier as all these.
I think those tiers look a lot more consistent, like a lot more reasonable in the middle of the tiers to me than.
I'm gonna at the end of this, I'm gonna see if we've got room to sneak CSM into bottom of A.
Fair enough.
I feel like Chaos Knights are just that last thing in A tier. They're that last holdout.
Yeah, right. I think you think Imperial Knights are worse than they are. I think you think Chaos Knights are better than they are, but that could just be.
I was being very reasonable.
That could be me on the wrong end of both of those.
Yeah,
it could be me thinking Imperial Knights are better than they are, and Chaos Knights are worse than they are. But who knows? It's a very small shift.
Tyranids, my beloved, my first and my favorite. They are in a weird spot right now. They have so many strong rules. Their points have been brutal. Their points changes have been brutal in making an army, and now there's very few options left in the book. But they still have great rules. They can still look somewhat oppressive, but they still can utterly fail the stat check against quite a few armies.
Yeah.
They are very hard to place.
They're also very hard to play now.
Yeah, they are. It's very hard to make a working Tyranid list. And in my mind, Tyranids are in the upper end of C.
Yeah.
I think
so.
Yeah. I maybe we give them the nod over Blood Angels. Maybe we don't. I don't know.
I don't think it matters too much.
Not significantly.
They're not. When they came out, they're the most broken army in 9th edition. And they've just taken nerf after nerf after nerf after nerf.
Yeah, they were definitely on top when they came out. And they've just taken 3 nerfs now.
They took the dreaded triple nerf this last time.
Yeah, the third one stuck. And, the first nerf was very, very small, barely even noticed. The second nerf was real, but they were still good. And then the third nerf. Oh, sorry, they've taken 4 nerfs.
They've taken 4 rounds of nerfs. The first one barely existed. The second and third ones were reasonable. The fourth one was punitive.
Yeah, they were like, we are not doing a 5th nerf. Bang!
Be gone!
Yeah, Tyranids got walloped by that one. And Yeah, that looks about right for Tyranids, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad.
Sad.
It's a sad day for the bugs. But you know what? There are very bright times on the horizon because we're going to get new models that have me beyond excited.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I literally forgot there were 4 nerfs. Funny enough, the one I forgot was the Leviathan nerf.
Oof. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, because when they like nerfed Transhuman and the Reaper, and I was like, all right, nerfed Reaper, whatever. Like, moving on.
Yeah, nerfed Reaper still killed checks notes everything in the game.
Yeah, I was a little more careful with it, but I still took it. Yeah, but I wasn't playing Leviathan, so.
Well, then it got the ignores -1 damage thing, which was huge.
Yeah, but that was at the same time. That was the same round of nerfs that also gave me plus 1,000 points. So
It's rough.
yeah, it was bad. Orks.
Let's talk about Orks, which are, I think, quite a good army right now.
Yeah, I think Orks are very good. I think that they still have a little trouble with some of the S tier stuff, but like that's not exactly a unique problem. That's why those things are S tier. I feel like Orks are A tier.
Yeah, solid A tier.
Solid A tier.
Solid A tier. Their scoring is really good. Their pressure is really good. They have a variety of...
Yep.
No, they don't have a variety of builds, but they have a couple of builds. You can
They
play.
have 2, at least. They have various types of Goth Orcs kill rigs. Maybe you replace kill rigs with battle wagons.
Maybe you take mass infantry and those infantry go in battle wagons, but like it's fundamentally the same concept.
Yep. There's Goth pressure, and then there's Death Skulls.
Yes.
And I think Orks are
I think Orks are roughly
right
there.
here, feels right.
I could see them better than GSC, to be
I
honest.
do genuinely think Orks are better than Genestealer Cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm totally okay putting Orks at a Genestealer Cult.
Man, the drop from S to A, though.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Orks are not even sniffing S tier.
No,
But they are really good.
Yeah, they are still really good. They're very fast, very aggressive. They do a ton of damage, and they score secondaries really well. And they put the pressure on in ways that other armies... They put the pressure on in the same... with the same skill as, like, Custodes.
Yep.
Right? Not like skills and player skill, but like they're as good at putting on pressure as Custodes are.
Yep.
And Custodes are very good at putting on
They
pressure.
really, really are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Orks there feels perfect. Not a lot of build variety, but they score insanely well. They're a great pressure list. I think their big weakness is sometimes you go second against guns and it's just too much.
Yes.
And that is a real problem that you don't like to run into. But 1, they can go first. 2, they still score really well. So I've seen them go second to guns and sneak out wins or a way closer loss than they deserved. And that's very valuable in teams formats as well. I think Orks are just generally in a great spot right now. Don't need any particular nerfs. I'd like to see get the good bits get toned down.
Yeah,
but other than that, I think they could just be the same.
I think they're in a good power level. They're a bit inconsistent because the go second, get shot problem is incredibly real.
Yep.
But it's not necessarily something that's going to happen to you in an event.
Yeah.
So what makes their secondaries really good besides get the good bits? Well, get the good bits is like a 20 that caps at a 15. So you just get a 15.
Does feel that way.
Green Tide is very good. It's a very difficult to stop, like 10 to 12. Like 12, honestly.
Yep.
And then just generically, it's just good at secondaries.
Because they can move around the board. So
Yeah.
they're good at getting to things to kill them. They're good at taking stomp them good into anyone who's getting remotely close to you. It's just like, ooh,
Yeah.
probably getting a 12.
They're decent at Warp Ritual. They're decent.
Great at primary.
They have a decent third secondary. They don't have an insane third secondary like they used to. They used to have Biggest and the Best, which I'm happy went away as a guy who plays Orks because it was miserable just to take my Warlord and lock him to an objective. But, it was a good secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Orks right up there in A tier feels just right.
Yep.
Raven
Raven Guard.
Guard.
Well,
I
Death Guard and Deathwatch were getting lonely.
Yeah, I think this is distinctly worse than Chaos Space Marines by enough of a margin that I will happily drop Raven Guard a tier.
You know Chaos Demons, how they're the separator line between A and S? I feel like CSM are the separator line between C and D.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. CSM are not on the same tier as Raven Guard and Deathwatch and Death Guard, but boy howdy are they. They're not good.
They're like teetering on the edge.
Yeah, there's a gap here. There's like a whole space. But
Again, with that being said, you can go over 50% with any of these.
that is true.
Army
That is true.
here,
Any
you can.
army here, I think you genuinely can.
Yes.
Um,
Raven Guard are just... I don't know what they do like well.
That's the thing, is that I think Raven Guard are just completely lacking in faction identity, because they want to be in Tactical Doctrine to do cool sniper things. That's like their shtick. But then once you do that, you lose all your AP and bonus for Dev Doctrine. So the problem is that all of the weapons they use to snipe are Devastator Doctrine weapons, but then they want to be tactical for pluses.
Yes.
So then they don't get the cool mortal wound aspect of it anymore. It's now just, oh, I'm just worse AP.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just too situational, and then they don't do enough.
They don't do enough. Salamanders, I think, are
Actually pretty good.
They're actually not bad. I don't think they benefit from the Dev Doctrine thing, because they're not going Dev.
No, but they love the Tactical Doctrine thing, because they get to stay there.
They get to stay on their turns 2 through 5.
Yep.
How are you feeling about Salamanders, my man?
I think that they are better than Blood Angels.
Yes.
I think that they are going to fall somewhere into that middle B section.
Okay, I could see that. I
honestly think they're very close to Templars. I actually think they're better than Templars.
I think Templars are slightly overrated in this
tier
list right now.
They're a little bit. Templars feel like they should be down.
Yeah, like that feels a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, Salamanders are solid. You get a lot of dudes holding flame weapons and melta weapons.
And they're cheap, and it's one of the better infantry builds out there right now. Yeah. They do amazing aggressors and eradicators. They have good character support. Vulcan Heston is great. Adrax Agatone is pretty solid. They can take good melee units. I think Salamanders are just a good, solid Space Marine.
Yep, they're a solid middle of the pack, good at their things, bad at some things.
Have a good unique secondary, can then take Codex Warfare and just kill 15 things with tactical weapons and call it a day. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they totally can, can't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Whoosh. Get whooshed on with the flamers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're good. I think something we need to get over with the tier list. Either we need to add more tiers.
I think in the future we should.
We need to add more tiers in the future.
Yep.
But I think what happens here is, like, you know how a game can come out and, like, the worst it's going to be rated. I don't care if they literally mail you a blank CD in a box. Mm-hmm. The worst it's going to be rated is 6 out of 10. Yeah. I think you can have an army that is decent at some things and fall into C tier. Mm-hmm. You can have an army that's decent at some things and fall into D tier. That's Death Guard. Yeah. It just is what it is, you know? Some armies, you can't have every army better than average.
That, unfortunately true.
Yes.
Even though there's a lot of armies that are playable and can punch up.
Yeah. Yeah. Not every army is going to be better than average, because that's what average means.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, if an army is being piloted by an experienced general, more than half of them will go above 50%.
Yeah, not even any army can go above 50%. Yeah. Most armies will go above 50%.
Yeah, because that was kind of the prerequisite to this video was, all right, let's just say how well will this book do if it is piloted by an experienced general who understands the faction.
Yeah, because I don't want people to think that, like, oh, we put an army in C tier, that means it's god-awful. No. And, like, that's not what that means. Yeah. You know, that's not what that means. All right, speaking of armies that are going to go into C tier.
Speaking of armies going into C tier, oh, my beloved Sisters of Battle. A lot of my favorite armies are not great right now.
Yeah, well, one of them is.
One of them is. But Sisters of Battle, they're somewhere in here. The loss of Armor of Contempt was felt. It was felt bad. Let's just drop them there for now, and I'll fiddle within a second. Yeah. The loss of Armor of Contempt was felt deeply. They got worse secondaries at the same time, which is, in hindsight, hilarious. They also, like, had some of their more positive matchups go hilariously bad, because Sisters were really good into Armor of Contempt because they could pack a bunch of AP for melee and ignore cover AP for shooting. And so you got to a point where you're like, oh, Sisters are an Armor of Contempt army that's good into the other Armor of Contempt armies.
That was Blood Angels, baby.
Yeah, take that away and Sisters, and boy did Sisters like playing against Blood Angels.
Oh, yeah, they did.
That was a matchup I loved.
Blood Angels loved playing into other Armor of Contempt armies because you didn't care. You cut through them no matter what, but you still got it against them. Yep. Same thing for Sisters. It's just both of them, that identity is gone. Yep. And completely. Also, Sisters got secondaries nerfed.
Sisters also got secondaries nerfed. They also got points increases. Very minor ones.
Repentia.
But, like...
Repentia going up to 16 points per model is a big deal.
Yeah, and at the end of it, I think that you can have a Sisters army that can make plays and can be interesting, but I just think that they are very hard to get to that next level.
Yeah, those changes dropped them from A to C.
It really did. I think that they went a full tier down for each of those nerfs.
Yep.
probably the combination of secondary and points dropped them 1 tier, and then armor contempt dropped them a 2nd tier.
Yeah.
And
They used to be weirdly tough.
yeah, they used to be weirdly tough, and suddenly they're not.
Yeah. And now they can't even pretend to exist in the open against the top armies.
God, no. And indirect is agonizing into them.
Yeah. Custodes are pretty decent to them because they just turn off your rerolls and suddenly Vol, like, is just waving at you from across the board.
Yeah.
Orks do really well into them. GSC do really well into them. Harlequins do insane into them. Eldar do really well into them. Chaos Knights do really well into them. Like,
yeah, we're just going down the line.
yeah.
Like,
They just have a series of bad matchups.
yep.
I mean, yeah.
Honestly.
Like, I'm rattling off every single army above them as a matchup
bad matchup.
bad matchup. That's not usually the case. Usually an army has, like, some of the armies above them is a good matchup for them. It's just they're not as strong across the board.
Think of any.
but sisters just don't have good matchups across the board anymore.
There you go. We're getting to the end of this. Space Wolves.
Yeah.
Space Wolves are the unique exception to that. How much you benefited from Dev Doctrine affects how good you are as a Space Marine chapter.
Yeah, this was the free war gear option.
This was the one where free warrior went to the max.
Yeah.
Because Space Wolves
Top of A.
I think so. They are right near them and Custodes. I don't know. They're above Orks, I think.
For sure. They
This is a very close one to me. I think they're right on the same level. Space Wolves might be a little better because they get Desolators. Like, wow, what a sentence.
Oh, whoa, yeah, though they do have keen senses that ignores the ballistic skill modifier and any hit modifiers.
Yeah.
Nah, I feel like they gotta be.
Yeah, I think top of A is A-okay.
Yeah. Their identity now is a bunch of hyper-fragile, very fast guys kitted out with power weapons and combi meltas.
It's so
There's
insane.
so many of them. Yeah, there's so many of them. And all of them hit insanely hard. Mm-hmm. And it's like Blood Angels.
With 39 meltaguns.
With 39 meltaguns instead of like some amount of pistols. Mm-hmm. And you also do really, really dirty things with Desolation Marines. And you just have more dudes because their dudes are cheaper than Blood Angel dudes.
They are, yeah, because you're not living either way. Blood Angel dudes hit harder, but I'll take a free meltagun and, still pretty hard-hitting Space Wolf unit to a slightly harder-hitting, way more expensive, no free meltagun Blood Angel.
Yeah.
Why accept less than 4 meltaguns in any of your jump pack units?
And the 12-inch range is a big deal over Inferno Pistol 6-inch range.
Yeah.
Because not only is it plus 2 damage at Inferno Pistol range, but it's also covers 4 times the amount of the board.
And can advance and shoot.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to stay safe against that.
Yep.
Space Wolves, very, very good Space Marine chapter right now. The Warrior Palooza is just something else. Yeah, the first time I got shot by 40 meltaguns and then the rest of the army. Then I got shot by three Long Fang squads. I was like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, they're very strong. They also reward player skill quite a lot because if you are out in the open, you're dead. But you just swarm your opponent with a million bodies, all of them firing weapons that they for reasonable prices should not have. And it's a strong army right now. It's a very strong army.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Tau.
Let's talk about Tau.
Where's Tau's win rate? I'm curious because
it's always low.
It's always lower than it should be.
I mean, honestly, Tau are probably gonna be in like that
47.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's refreshing, but yeah, 47 sounds a little lower than it should be, but they're still gonna be B tier at the lowest because when Tau win, they are just intolerable amounts of firepower, and also I think Tau is an army that just has a little bit lower win rate than it should because when Tau makes some level of mistakes or some level of unoptimized list, they get rolled. But when Tau is working at full efficiency, they are insane. Yeah. In my mind, they are...
In my mind, they're bottom of A.
Bottom of A, you think?
You played against... Richard's list felt really strong. It felt really good in the Streamhouse RTT.
Yeah.
I think his list was very good. Mm-hmm. And I mean that's his list felt like an A-tier list.
It did, yeah. That was Borkan, but they have multiple different. They have at least 3 sub factions that I think have real genuine competitive play. They have somehow still list options after taking nerfs. Like Tower is still really good. Are Tau better than Craft Worlds? Probably not. But
Honestly, I think so.
you think so?
I'm much more scared of Tau than I am of Eldar. Eldar, I go into it being like, all right, I can be the bully. Whereas Tau is like, please, not the face.
Yeah.
Just not
That's
the
true.
face.
Every time I play against Tau, it's like I'm playing whack-a-mole. Where it's like, there are 7 ways the Tau army can table you this turn. Cover them all. There are 6 ways the Tau army can table you on turn 2. Try to cover them all. Yeah, that's true. It's so different to play against all.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not a lot of room to mess up with Tau, honestly, because the army is not that durable.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I mean, you can make one, and I think the big unit of Crisis with a lot of drones and whatnot is probably the way to go, because it is actually fairly durable. But it's not an easy army to play.
No.
Honestly, especially because they fall behind on secondaries quite often. But they are very strong still. They're just easy to mess up with.
Yeah, I think that's it. But I think a good experienced Tau player running a good list is still a nightmare for most things in the game.
Yeah.
They've got a couple bad matchups. They're not sniffing the top of A tier because of that. Because I don't think they do as well in S tier as like some of the things that are top of A tier. But they still have play into a couple of those.
Yeah. I still think Tau are very strong.
Yep. Fully agreed with that.
You do have to play them properly. You do have to play them well. You
do
have to
take the right list.
And you have to get aggressive on people, but they're so much better at getting aggressive on people than Votann. Turns out when you move 18 inches and fly and can fall back and shoot, that is fundamentally different.
Yeah.
They also outscore Votann, which is gross and dirty.
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I'm very content with Tau being right about there. T-Suns. Somewhere in the C drop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where they're going. They're going somewhere in here. Probably the bottom half of C.
Yeah, probably around
Demon
there-ish.
allies don't really do as much for them as they used to. Their secondary game is fine, but still not great.
Yeah, I mean, you take the Demon ally to use their powers, and then that's fine.
You still do the same concept as last time. You just don't have Armor of Contempt. Your Demon allies are a little bit worse than before, and more armies in the game are capable of looking at you and saying die.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. They're below average army, but most half armies are.
All right, we've only got 3 left, but we've got a super chat from Bonsai Kitty Gaming. Bonsai, thank you so much for your support. You are a champion. Which army do you think is the best one trick? What are the top 3 highest skill cap armies? And if you could each only play 2 armies, which would they be? Yeah, that's going to be a hard question for Jack. Think about that while I dive into the first one. Which army do you think is the best one trick?
Probably Eldar.
I was going to say...
By one trick, do you mean...
I was going to say GSC.
Like, if you're really good at one army, which army will do the best for you?
That's what that means.
I'm not sure 100%.
I thought it meant like a one-trick pony. Like, they do one thing well. Because GSC does one thing well.
It depends. Like, is he saying, like, which is it better to be a one trick on? Or is it better... Which one is better at, having only one thing?
Which is the best army for a one-trick player, or which army is the best at the one thing it does? I don't know.
Custodes Dreadnoughts are probably...
Custodes Dreadnoughts may genuinely be an answer to that. Bonsai, clarify what you mean by the best one trick while we answer the rest of this. What are the top 3 highest skill cap armies? In my mind, highest skill cap, GSC does reward a skilled player very highly.
Harlequins as well.
Harlequins do as well. Harlequin and Eldar I'm going to roll into one. Because Craft World and Harlequins as a soup, I think, rewards player skill a lot.
I think Mono Harlequins rewards player skill more than
the soup version?
Eldar soup. Because Eldars, you shoot and you fade, and you shoot and you fade, and you shoot and you fade.
Well, it's one codex, so we'll just... Elves. Harlequins.
Sure, just because they all look the same to you.
They do.
But I think it's Harlequins, it's GSC, and then it gets tough.
Yeah. It's weird because like demons like have a lot of the armies have a lot of skill potential. Like demons, and then but like sometimes you can just be like, I'll just rely on the stat check part of demons and that'll be fine. The third one is tough.
This one's very hard,
Sisters is one army that I like to say, but I don't think that they have the power to reward the skill plays anymore.
Dark Eldar probably is the one in C tier that would punch the highest above its weight if you're very good with it.
Or Tyranids can always punch up.
Tyranids as well.
The
Grey Knights have a lot of tricks at their disposal.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good ones there.
Tau are also pretty good at... You have to be good with Tau to win with it at this point.
And Bonsai did clarify that their one trick is only maining the same army.
Probably
Dark Angels.
You mean right now? Sure. Probably Eldar over the course of forever. Eldar's always been good, and it always rewards players who are good with Eldar. Harlequins playstyle changes repeatedly, but Eldar has statistics. That's why there's a lot of like random just Eldar players.
Yeah, and they often do well.
Yeah,
because Eldar often are positioned to reward player skill.
If you could only play 2 armies, what would they be?
For me, if I had to pick 2, I would say Tyranids and Space Marines.
Fair enough. I'd also pick Space Marines, partly because that's the most flexible.
Yep.
After that, it becomes incredibly difficult for me to pick just
But I'm going to make you pick one. I mean, Bonsai has given us a super chat here.
So, oh God, Bonsai.
While
this is a
Jack
real Sophie's
thinks
choice.
about this, give a shout out to Lexi. Lexi, thank you so much for that super chat. Lexi157. F to the veterans of the Long War. Absolute Fs. Give me an Iron Warrior supplement. Give me Demon Primac Perturabo. Give them a new book. Give them data sheets, actually. They can keep the rules.
It's hard to say, because the second one is going to be based off of how the army plays. Not necessarily how good it is, but how it plays on the table. Like, Black Templars, their last book I loved. Like, I loved that book so much. And then they came out the new one, which is still good, just in different ways, and I didn't like the way it played as much. And all of a sudden, I didn't want to play Black Templars, because it just played in a different way. Hard to say. If they keep the identity, it's probably either Harlequins or Custodes, because both of those, it's either a very fast, aggressive,
I would have guessed you to say Custodes and Harlequins. I'm surprised you said Space Marines.
I like Space Marines. It's just like it can be 70 different playstyles. But Custodes and Harlequins are probably my 2 favorite armies right now.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, 3 to go. 2 Space Marine chapters and a totally not Space Marine chapter. Yeah. All right, Ultramarines. Ultramarines are yet another army that I think you genuinely just take the win rate and throw it out the window.
What is this, Ultramarines?
Ultramarines.
What's its win rate?
42%.
Nope.
Yeah.
That just is not representative.
That's just not representative. And I think I hate to give Warhammer community credit on this, but I think that this is the one chapter where you can look at it and say, yeah, a lot of new players play Ultramarines, and that just probably skews the math.
But also, I think it's an army that does not reward you playing the army the way the army tells you it should be played.
Also true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ultramarines, I think, are very good either as successor or pure. Frankly, I think they can do both now.
Very good.
As a good Devastator Doctrine army with some strong secondary plays, really good relics and stratagems, and you just played as a Devastator Doctrine army with some counterpunch. I personally prefer successors. I've really enjoyed playing Emperor's Spears. But I think pure Ultramarines can be almost as good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to fall either behind Custodes, above Custodes, or above Space Wolves for me.
Ultramarines?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't gonna go that high. I know I'm a fanboy for Ultramarines, but I wasn't gonna go.
I honestly think they're better than the rest of that stuff down there.
I was gonna put them towards the very bottom of A tier.
Okay.
Or the very top of B tier.
You know the army better than I do.
Yeah.
To me, they seem very powerful. You've convinced me, at least in the past, that they're very strong.
Yeah, I think they are very good. They do, unfortunately, just not Devastator as well as Iron Hands. But you get the fun. They have a lot of cool. They've got a lot of cool counterpunch options, a lot of cool relics. Goleman is a boss, and he does very well with there. I think that they do just stay in Dev Doctrine because you have 1 CP put a unit in different doctrines, so you can have your melee elements rattle off into Assault Doctrine when you need to. For only 1 CP, it's not that hard. You usually start with 5 CP anyways. Redeploys are great. Goleman just kind of gives the passive Iron Hand rerolls to all your vehicles anyways.
Yeah. I mean, Ultramarines is a good army.
Yeah.
You know the army better than I do. I trust you wherever you put it.
I honestly,
as long as you don't put it in B tier.
Oh, I was between this and this. I think they're right in this zone. I'll go very bottom of A. I think Ultramarines are underrated.
I think they are very underrated.
I definitely think they're underrated. I think they are a much better army than people think. I also, this will be controversial, think they're better than the next army we're going to rank.
I mean, it's not controversial with me.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be controversial.
It's going to be controversial.
It's going to be very We'll find out right now if Anthony Vanella's in chat.
Yeah, let me just take my phone off of Do Not Disturb to see if Anthony has something to say to me.
Let's. I'm going to put it on Do Not Disturb to make sure that I don't get 70 messages from him.
Yep. So, World Eaters.
top of B to me.
Yeah, so they have a very good win rate. They have an S tier win rate, but but we are not going just off of win rate because, frankly, they don't win a lot of events. I believe that they've won 2 events since the book came out.
Yep.
One was Anthony.
One was Anthony, who can win with a variety of armies.
Yep, very skilled player. But I just think World Eaters really struggle to consistently win games. Now, if this was a team format, I think World Eaters would have a lot more. Like, if we were doing a teams tier list, World Eaters would rock up. Because World Eaters are so good at scoring 80 points.
They're insane at that.
But sometimes someone scores 85 points and tables them.
Yeah, they're also
so
very, very one-dimensional. And sometimes that one dimension is enough to win a game.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not.
I was personally thinking World Eaters were literally at the bottom of A. I could easily put them towards the top end of B.
I could see them at the top end of B. I could see them at bottom of A. My gut is telling me top of B.
Yeah.
Because they're just so limited.
That's the thing, is that their secondaries are insane. They are so good at scoring points. They can do well even into unfavorable matchups by just exploiting a little bit of player skill and getting a 15 on Pile of Skulls turn 1. I don't know what to tell you.
Pile of Skulls is a 15 you can't stop. Technically, you can only get 5 a turn, but
I did manage to give a player a 14 once, and
that means they messed up.
He absolutely did.
Yes.
He absolutely did.
If you just don't mess up, you will get a 15 on Pile of Skulls.
That's true.
Every time.
That's completely true.
And then their other secondaries are also really... All 3 of them are insane. Mm-hmm. All 3 of their secondaries are... Secondaries Votann would literally kill for.
Yeah.
A Votann player would do dirty things if you promised him, blood for the blood god or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, World Eaters are much better in team events. I want to add that caveat. I think World Eaters are an army that gets better in teams.
Yeah, in teams I think they're S tier. You just cannot score a big differential on them.
It's very hard to do, yeah.
Yeah.
World Eaters are a crazy strong army. Yeah. I think I'm okay with them being very top end of B.
They just have some units that they go into, and it's just like, wow, you have a Phoenix Lord. Mm-hmm. Wow, you have a Catan.
God, sometimes you just have 2 units at once to attack something. Like, you just tag a Rhino into 1 Khorne Berserker and 4 Servitors into the guy carrying the big chain axe. And then they just sit there for a turn. And they don't have guns. And they didn't have a way to kill the Servitors other than combat.
Yep. I mean, they'll always get a close game into armies, but Eldar, Harlequins, Tau rock their world. Yep.
Guard, Iron Hands, Space Marines. I think all of those can put World Eaters under. I think Demons are really good into World Eaters.
Demons are really good into World Eaters. Custodes have tools to beat World Eaters.
Yeah. Orks.
Orks do really,
Too
really
many
well
of the A tier and S tier armies rock World Eaters in my mind for me to justify putting them bottom of A. So I think top of B, very top of B, I think is good. One left.
I think that's about right, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's about right. One left is White Scars. Poor White Scars.
What a one to end on, huh, John?
I know.
Yeah.
Alphabetizing these images has failed me. Love White Scars. It's my favorite chapter, but they really didn't get better with the Space Marine changes. They really didn't.
Same thing as Blood Angels.
They get to Assault Doctrine at the exact same speed as before. They stay in it for the exact same length as before.
Same as Blood Angels.
They did get cheaper. They don't really benefit from Codex Warfare because their secondary, which is good, unchanged, but good, is in the same category as Codex Warfare. So they don't benefit from that.
And you're also not Dev Doctrining.
You're also not Dev Doctrining anyone. And then the units that White Scars use the most are the units that didn't get cheaper, which is Blade Guard veterans and Devastators and Vanguard veterans.
Terminators with Storm Shields did.
Yeah, but I'm using those now because they're cheaper than a Blade Guard vet. But that wasn't a traditional White Scar unit. That was just a combat unit that I'm now forced to take because everything else got worse.
Yeah. It sounds, it sounds like you're hankering to put them in C tier.
I think they belong in C tier. I want them to be better than that, but I think that they are.
Yeah,
a C tier army.
I would agree with you.
Yeah,
it's the same problem Blood Angels have. Mm-hmm. They're not durable.
They have a lot of room for skill expression, more than an average Marine chapter, but they don't have power behind it, so they fail stat checks more often than other Space Marine.
Yep, and for the first 2 turns, they are not great.
For the first 2 turns, you're in a rough place.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my mind, they're falling somewhere in this realm. They're better than Imperial Fists.
Yes.
I think they're somewhere around 1,000 Suns.
Yep.
They're probably better than Sisters.
It sounds right.
I'll put them ahead of 1,000 Suns because Magnus did a lot wrong.
Let's do a little rearranging.
Yep.
S tier and A tier feel set to me.
Agreed. Let's hit these super chats.
Absolutely.
And then let's do that. So, real quick, Red Rum with the £5 super chat. Thanks for the tier list. Love the channel. When is the Ultramarine Masterclass coming? Let's go, John. Red Rum, very much appreciate the enthusiasm and support. Ultramarines is an army that is high on my mind. So, that's one that I'm going to want to cover soon. So, stay tuned. There will be an Ultramarine Masterclass coming. Just a question of when.
Yep.
And Shell, thank you so much for the support. Quick boys, please drop Votann to D. I need a screenshot for my agenda. Well, you know what, Shell? You asked nicely, so hope you're quick on the draw.
Let's make it worse than Deathwatch for a second.
Oh, I mean, let's not even pretend. There's no way. I don't want them to think that we're crazy. So hopefully Shell has been able to screenshot this or is able to go back in time and pause the video because that's another way to do it. Dang it, were they behind Black Templars?
Yeah, they were.
I think they were like bottom of B. Yeah,
they were. That might not stick after we do.
It might not stick. So let's hit the rearranging and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah. So A and S feel fine.
S tier, 100% okay with. No changes necessary.
A tier, Orks feel slightly too high on that. They're good, but I don't think their top 6 armies good or top 7 armies good.
But like, I think they're better than GSC.
It's true.
Think they're better than Tau?
Maybe. Tower
rough for Orks, but I think overall, I think Orks are better than Tau.
Yeah. All right. Then I'm set on where A and S tier are.
Yep.
B tier feels a little wonky.
Always does.
Chaos Knights and World Eaters feel about right. Same with Grey Knights. After that, it's honestly just rearrange Black Templars behind Votann. I think we're set. Honestly, Black Templars come down to C.
Yeah, but like C is already so busy right now.
It is very busy.
We could put Black Templars here, but like I think I'm okay keeping the bottom.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. C tier, I don't think Blood Angels are quite that high. I feel like they have the exact same problems that White Scars do.
I think that Blood Angels are better at it though because they have like unique units.
I would put them just above White Scars myself.
You would drop them five right now?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I did think.
Well,
like, in my head, that is where they're at right now.
Okay. I do not play Blood Angels, so I will defer.
Like I think they're better than White Scars, but not. They both have issues. Mm-hmm. White Scars has more like deliverability, which is something that
they do, but they hit so much less hard.
That is true. That's true. So
and they cost more.
Yeah. So it's where do you rank those changes?
I think Blood Angels are better than Drukhari still.
You think so?
I do.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. It's not the
biggest deal in the world. The sorting within C is not terribly relevant. I'm still hung up on CSM being the literal bottom, but like man,
they don't look better than any of the other stuff. Do
yeah,
they?
Are they better than T-Suns?
No,
they're not.
No, are they better than Sisters?
They might be, honestly.
Sisters are
in a spot right now.
They're in a rough spot.
They're in a place.
They're in a zone.
They're not in the zone, but they're in a zone.
They're in a zone, a designated zone.
Yeah. They're just lying down on a designated parking spot, getting run over.
Do you want to swap CSM and... I want to leave Imperial Fists where they're at, but do you want to swap Sisters and CSM?
I really could do that, yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's painful to look at. No, faith is its own reward.
Faith in the Emperor will get you slightly above Imperial Fists rather than slightly below.
I have no reason to put them ahead of CSM, but I just can't put Sisters that low. It just hurts so bad.
I know, but I think it's right.
I think it's right. God. All right.
And then going down to D tier, I think Raven
that
Guard are worse than Death Guard.
Fair enough. That's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a tier list we feel happy with?
That's pretty dang close. Yeah.
Let's move that so that Reddit can get their screenshots in.
Absolutely. Get those screenshots in, people. This is the version to screenshot. We're not making any more changes. Anyways, Chaos Knights. Anyway, I think that wraps us up. We do have a quick super chat from John Apocalypse. Thank you so much for that £2 super chat. World Eaters tier list. When? If we have not done a World Eaters tier list, that might be one we need to put on the schedule. So John Apocalypse, we'll take a look.
We'll take a look at that. It's a good idea.
Yep.
Postmaster General Dean Orange, $5 super chat. Just a reminder for Jack Harsey still owes over $5,000 in fees to the Newark Post Office for lasagna-related damage. I got a letter saying that since I was not the sender of that package, that I was not liable.
Yeah, I feel like the recipient is not liable for any lasagna-related damages caused to the interns of the Newark post office.
That was in the letter that you signed, Mr. Orange.
Yeah, Postmaster Dean.
Postmaster.
All right. So,
Yes,
yep.
that letter very much confused my mother.
Good. I think that wraps up our tier list. All right.
I mean, the meta. So, what's your thoughts on the meta right now? Like, as a brief couple minutes.
I feel like the meta is in a really good place for almost every army, because even though there's a lot of armies in C tier due to how we actually ended up ranking this, most of these armies have the ability to punch up and go positive or get podium at an event.
Yes.
Most of these armies do. I think that there's just too many here.
Yeah.
And I know that the dream is that there isn't an S tier.
Yes.
But the reality is that there's always at least one. I think that we have 4 armies, though, that are just distinctly above the rest.
Yeah.
And that's too many.
What I'm happy that we did this tier list was we usually have really overloaded A and B.
Yep.
Because we treat C tier as if it's trash and D tier as if it's literally cannot be played.
Yeah.
Like you open the book and it catches fire on the spot.
You try to use a Devastator heavy weapon and it just explodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's how that is. Like, I think C tier is for below average armies, of which there are 15.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Yeah. There's
14 or
32
whatever.
armies.
Yeah.
We can say that, 16 and 17, and then everything else is below average.
It just is how average works. And saying every army is at or above average is trying to send the message of, you can do better than 50% with any army. But you can do better than 50% with any army. We said that a million times. And so after that, then the tier list makes a lot more sense with
this
a C tier
here,
that's actually populated.
This right here is the midpoint. That's the midpoint. If we had 32 armies, this is top 16, this is bottom 16. And these armies feel about right. These are smack dab in the middle armies.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Is Votann a better than average army?
Nope.
But it's very close.
Very close.
Salamanders, I guess?
Yeah, very close. You could swap Salamanders, Votann, I wouldn't even blink.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I think that rounds us out.
I think that wraps us up for today. I had a good time with this. I feel like I knew this tier list a lot better than I knew the one going into Arks of Omen.
Yeah, that's always the case. And God, am I excited for the beginning of 10th edition tier list when we are just throwing lasagna at the wall and seeing what sends.
We're throwing lasagna through a Newark post office sorting machine and seeing what comes out the other side.
Shoving it in a mailbox.
That is a deep inside joke, and it should definitely stay that way.
Indeed it should. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. We've enjoyed having you all here in the chat, and we appreciate you taking the time to support us. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel. It helps us with those wonderful YouTube analytics. You can even comment on how nice Jack's hair looks today.
Thank you. Thank you, buddy.
But what you should also do is while you're scrolling down there, click on the link in the description below. We might even have it appearing somewhere on the screen right now. And that is to get to the Worm. The Worm is where all the Art of War coaches, top-level players like myself, Jack Harpster, Nick Donavati, Richard Siegler, and many, many more are there to teach you how to get better at the game you love. We have a lot of exciting content coming, and you can get a free 3-day trial in that link below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Jack, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.